Chapter 1. Brain Storage Center. Come on, open your mouth. Although it's hard to swallow, don't ask what it is, just swallow it. This is for your own good. Remember, don't vomit. On the playground of Tianhai City No. 1 Middle School, Ning Yi was holding a strange fruit with strange colors and spiral patterns and was stuffing it into the mouth of a beautiful girl. Ugh, Ning Yi, the talent test is about to begin. You, are you going to feed me history? When you just took a big mouthful of fruit that Ning Yi stuffed into her mouth, a feeling of extreme nausea began to surge in her stomach. When you bets, the thing Ning Yi just stuffed into her mouth was the most disgusting thing she had ever eaten in her life. There is no one. Stop talking. There's still half of it left to eat. Here, finish it. Don't waste it. This is good food. Most people can't even eat it if they want to. Seeing the resistance on Wen Ya's face, Ning Yi's eyes showed a bad smile. He took the remaining half of the frozen fruit and continued stuffing it into Wen Ya's mouth. Ugh, why can't you spit out this disgusting fruit? Death, Ning Yi. You're done. You're completely done. Wen Ya was so angry that she stared at Ning Yi with beautiful eyes. Her cheeks were slightly red at this moment, as if the taste of the fruit was too much for her to bear. What made her feel even more desperate was, Ning Yi stuffed something into her mouth. As soon as it enters the body, it seems to disappear instantly, and it cannot be spit out no matter what. Snort. When the test is over, I'll give you a good punishment. Wen Ya originally wanted to punch Ning Yi a few times in return for what happened just now, but as the monitor, she had already heard the class teacher's urging. She will soon serve as the representative of Class 6 and be the first to take part in this talent test. Watching Wen Ya leave angrily, Ning Yi smiled and followed her back to the long queue of Class 6. Congratulations to the host for successfully delivering the frozen fruit. In the future, those with frozen fruit abilities will receive 10 times the income from cultivating their fruit abilities back to the host. Only 10 times? This is too little. It's better to teach hockey in 6 styles. Every time you pass on this kind of physical skill to someone, you can get 10 times the training return. If you pass it on to more people, wouldn't it mean that you can keep getting stronger just by collecting interest? It seems like it's better not to go to the superpower university. It's better to go to a martial arts college to teach physical skills to improve your skills faster. Before the talent test started, Ning Yi had already planned his next path. Does the host choose to obtain the frozen fruit ability now? Hearing the voice in his head, Ning Yi smiled. No. Wait until the ability test is over before you can obtain the frozen fruit ability. I don't want to go to some supernatural university because of my frozen fruit ability. After all, the most powerful thing is to get a steady stream of domineering and physical abilities in a martial arts college. Li Hao, the head teacher of Class 6, was standing in front of the team giving lectures. He glanced at everyone in Class 6, and his tone seemed more serious than usual. Today is the day for the talent test. Are you all ready? This is the most important moment of your lives. Wen Ya, you are the squad leader. You will be the first to go up for the test later. Teacher Li Hao's eyes fell on Wen Ya sitting in the front row, with a smile in his eyes. Advertisement Li Hao is very confident about Wen Ya. He felt that Wen Ya must at least awaken an A-level supernatural talent. This is his most proud student. This year's teaching indicators for Class 6. Li Hao has already placed all his weight on Wen Ya. Wen Ya heard the head teacher's words and nodded. Then he took a step forward and came under the supernatural talent stone. Wen Ya stood there before the talent test started. Once again, he glared at Ning Yi fiercely. He also waved his little fist at him. Ning Yi naturally understood what she meant. The meaning of Wen Ya is very simple. Don't run away after school. Let's practice. If this were done before, Ning Yi probably disappeared as soon as school was over. But today is different. Ning Yi knows very well that Wen Ya may be too busy to return home. Classmate Wen Ya, the talent test is about to begin. Please be prepared. Hear the shout-outs from official testers. Wen Ya could only temporarily suppress her dissatisfaction and adjust her mentality. After all, talent testing is a major event in every student's life. She didn't want her bad mood to affect her talent test results. Of course, no matter the mood is good or bad, it definitely won't affect the results of the talent test. This is a natural thing, and nothing can change it, except Ning Yi's devil fruit. Soon, the entire playground fell into silence. In front of the talent testing instrument, Wen Ya stood still and gently placed her hand on the talent stone. Soon, the test stone began to glow softly. Over time, the white light on the talent test stone suddenly switched to blue, and this blue light is getting stronger and stronger. Just when everyone was a little confused and didn't know what happened, Suddenly, an extremely cold breath burst out from the talent stone. The cold air instantly spread from the playground to the entire campus. Even a thin layer of ice quickly formed on the windows of the nearby teaching building. Even the walls outside are covered with a layer of crystal frost. It's so cold. What's going on? It's so cold, almost colder than winter. When it snows in the winter, I can roll around shirtless in the snow without feeling cold. The sudden temperature change caught everyone off guard. The sun is clearly high in the sky, but for some reason, it couldn't dispel the chill on their bodies at all. If everyone hadn't been exercising since they were young until they graduated from high school, their physiques would be very strong. I'm afraid many people are already going to be frozen by this cold air. Teacher Li Hao, the head teacher who also felt the cold, suddenly changed his expression, although he didn't understand what happened. But he still directly used his gold-level strength. Open the protective shield of your B-level talent to the maximum. It enveloped all the students in his class. Students in other classes were not so lucky, especially those whose head teachers are guys with physical abilities. They could only stay outside and endure the cold, looking at the classmates in Class 6 who were in the constant temperature protective shields with envy. Li Hao finally breathed a sigh of relief after seeing that all his classmates were fine. Only now could he take some time to look at the talent stone in front of him. At this moment, the talent stone has turned into a huge ice crystal snowflake. The chill that penetrates people is constantly coming out. Seeing this scene, Li Hao was so shocked that he stood there and did not dare to move. Advertisement: the talent stone has completely changed its appearance. Could it be that this is? As if he remembered something, he walked out of the protective shield. He shouted to Director Wang, who was wondering where the cold air came from. Director Wang, come and take a look. There seems to be something wrong with this talent stone. Upon hearing this, Director Wang, who rushed over in a hurry, quickened his pace again. When he saw the change in the talent stone, his face instantly became solemn. Then, as if he thought of something, a look of great surprise appeared on his face. Super gifted superpower. A talent that can cause the talent stone to completely change and produce visions. This is an SSS-level talent. We must report it to Principal Chun immediately. At this moment, the two of them are looking for the principal. He has been observing the entire talent test from the rooftop. Chen Wei, the principal of Tianhai No. 1 Middle School. The two of them had already seen the great changes that had taken place in the talent stone. The reason why he didn't leave for a long time was because he was already shocked by the sight before him. Chen Wei's lips trembled slightly, unable to control himself. First time. This is the first time. After so many years of teaching students, this is the first time I have seen such a strange phenomenon occur in the talent stone. This means that the person doing the test may be an SSS-level talent owner. Chen Wei has clenched his fists at this moment. He knows that the future of Tianhai No. 1 Middle School will be different from today. It has been nearly 100 years since Tianhai No. 1 Middle School was established. At most, there have only been S-level talent users, not even SS-level ones. As Chen Wei, the principal of Tianhai No. 1 Middle School, I don't know how many times I have secretly watched the entire talent test in the principal's room. I have also seen many cases of strange phenomena appearing in talent stones. But I have never seen such a terrifying phenomenon occur in the talent stone. The cold air coming from the vision of the talent stone has permeated the entire campus. Chen Wei forced himself to calm down. He did not deal with the dissipated cold air immediately. Instead, with trembling hands, he took out his mobile phone from his pocket and contacted Director Lin of the Municipal Education Bureau first. In fact, he actually had some selfish motives for doing this. He wants to make the matter of students with SSS-level supernatural talents appearing in Tianhai No. 1 Middle School cause a bigger fuss. Better let the whole city know. Under his leadership, Chen Wei, a genius student with SSS-level ice talent, appeared in Tianhai No. 1 Middle School. Director Lin, our Tianhai No. 1 Middle School came out, and a student with SSS-level talents and abilities appeared. Yes, I'm sure, very sure. Come on, come and take a look. This will be the pride of our entire Tianhai city. Chen Wei's voice was so excited that he couldn't control it. Director Lin on the other end of the phone was stunned for a long time, and then became extremely excited. Are you sure you're not mistaken? This is a big deal. If it's true, I'm going to start calling people to go to your place. Chen Wei took a deep breath, still unable to suppress the excitement in his heart. It's true. And it's a rare ice-type talent. The vision is so powerful that it's incredible. Just by touching the talent stone directly transformed into a blue ice crystal, and the chill has spread out of the campus. I have never seen such a powerful talent. I heard Chenwei say this. Lin Hai didn't say anything more, hung up the phone and picked up the car keys. Under the shocked eyes of everyone in the office, he jumped from the 30th floor of the Education Bureau in violation of regulations. It hit the ground hard, leaving a pair of deep big footprints on the ground. Strength settings: black iron level, bronze level, silver level, gold level, platinum level, emerald level, diamond level, star level, grandmaster level, king level, emperor level. Talent abilities: F level, E level, D level, C level, B level, A level, S level, SS level, SSS level. Chapter 2. When Zhang Wo, captain of the Tianhai City Defense Team. We just dealt with an incident involving a special ferocious beast invasion. When he was writing a work summary in the office, suddenly there was a rapid ringing from the office phone. He frowned and picked up the phone. Hello, this is the Tianhai City Defense Command Center. What? There is actually a student in Tianhai No. 1 Middle School who has awakened an SSS-level talent. Received a call from the mayor of Tianhai City. When Zhang Wo stood up from his chair in an instant, I almost spilled the water glass next to me. As the captain of the Tianhai City Defense Team, he has handled many special events related to talents and abilities. But this time, it was the first time for him to deal with the matter of awakening SSS-level talent awakeners. You must know that there are very few SSS-level awakened talents in the entire Dragon Kingdom, and most of them are concentrated in megacities such as the national capital or the magical capital. Third-tier cities like their Tianhai City, there are almost no SSS-level talent awakeners. Wait a moment, we'll be there soon. Our Tianhai City Defense Team will definitely protect Tianhai City's first SSS-level talented person. I guarantee it with my life. After hanging up the phone, when Zhang Wo sat on the chair and couldn't help but sigh softly. I don't know whose child he is, but his life is so good. He has awakened SSS-level talents. This child is in the same school as Wen Ya. It's really enviable. After a few minutes, dozens of military vehicles from the defense team roared towards Tianhai No. 1 Middle School. When Zhang Wo was sitting in the command car with a solemn look on his face, a little nervous in his heart, and a slight sweat on his forehead. He has participated in many protection missions. But this time the level of the protection mission was so high that he felt an unprecedented pressure. That's an SSS-level talent. There won't be one in the whole country for several years. And every time one appears, it can cause a huge sensation. Someone with such powerful supernatural talents. In the future, they can all reach the imperial level and become a giant. After so many years, the number of SSS-level talented people in the country probably only exceeds double digits. And now, such a promising guy has appeared in their Tianhai City. When Zhang Wo still remembers the order the mayor personally issued to him not long ago. This student must be protected. Take it to the Tianhai City Protection Center for protection and open it with my authority. This is the mayor of Tianhai City who is in the realm of star glory. Such big shots value this SSS-level talent so much. That's not to mention the people who work like them. Without pressure, that would be impossible. As soon as the team arrived at the school, when Zhang Wo immediately led the team members to the testing site. Principal Chenwei and Education Bureau Director Lin Hai were already waiting for them anxiously. They were obviously relieved to see when Zhang Wo arriving with his team. Captain 1, you're finally here. Lin Hai excitedly grabbed Wen Zhang Wo's hand and said repeatedly with a smile on his face. Tianhai No. 1 Middle School has never had such a talented person. This child is the treasure of our entire Tianhai City. You must protect her. When Zhang Wo glanced at Lin Hai and felt that he seemed to have something in his words, so he glanced at the two of them and asked directly, Principal Chen, Bureau Lin, which student is awakening this time? Such a good fortune. Lin Hai and Chenwei seemed to deliberately want to surprise Wen Zhang Wo. The two of them glanced at each other and then smiled at the same time. Captain 1, you'll know when you go and take a look. Seeing the two people being so polite to him, Wen Zhang Wo always felt that something was not right, but he couldn't explain it. Advertisement, could it be that my daughter has awakened her SS-level talent? But soon, he abandoned this unrealistic idea, because as early as when Wen Ya was young, he took Wen Ya to Beijing to consult a fortune teller with S-level divination talent. The fortune teller's accuracy was very high, and he almost never made mistakes. The result of her divination at that time was that Wen Ya's talents were only A+ level at most. It is even impossible to reach S level, let alone the legendary SSS level. Thinking back on this, when Zhang Wo felt that it was even more impossible for her to be his daughter. In this way, when Zhang Wo followed Chen Wei and Lin Hai with great curiosity towards the SSS-level genius who was protected in the center of the crowd. However, when he passed through the crowd, when I finally saw the person at the center who was protected by many teachers, when Zhang Wo was stunned on the spot as if he had been struck by lightning. Wait, why is my daughter Wen Ya here? When Zhang Wo looked at Principal Chen Wei with a blank face. Where are the SSS-level talent users who need protection? Didn't you say there is an SSS-level talent here? Upon hearing this, Principal Chen Wei smiled and patted Wen Zhang Wo on the shoulder, his eyes full of excitement. Captain Wen, you're in luck this time. Your Wen Ya is the student who awakened the SSS-level talent. Your daughter, her talent is so powerful that the entire talent testing instrument was almost frozen by her ice power. When Zhang Wo was stunned by these words, and his brain could not react for a while, he looked at Chen Wei dumbfounded, as if he couldn't believe what he just heard. My daughter turned out to be that SSS-level talent. This is impossible. Obviously, the fortune teller has already made a prediction. When Zhang Wo felt a little confused for a moment, he couldn't believe what he was seeing, but the facts before him made him unable to believe it. At the same time, Wen Ya, who was surrounded by the defense team, was also in a state of confusion. She couldn't figure it out that she had never shown any signs of ice powers. How could he suddenly awaken his ice power? Or is it a top-level talent like SSS level? Wait, could it be? No way. Soon, when you thought of a key detail, that's before the talent test begins. That weird fruit that Ning Yi forced into his mouth. The smell of the fruit made her nauseous, as if she had eaten something indescribable. Thinking of this, a hint of anger suddenly flashed across Wen Ya's face. Stinky Ning Yi. Believe it or not, when I go back Wait, what if it's really that fruit? Wen Ya thought secretly in her heart. She vaguely remembered that Ning Yi seemed to have said the words, "for your own good," at that time. Thinking of this, Wen Ya couldn't help but want to find Ning Yi immediately. Ask him carefully if the SSS-level ice talent he awakened is related to the fruit he fed himself. If it's true, why didn't Ning Yi eat it himself, but let her eat it? You fool. If it's really because of you, I will support you for the rest of my life. Wen Ya's voice became softer and softer, and her face became softer and softer. However, while Wen Ya gradually calmed down, a series of extremely excited voices reached everyone's ears at this moment. Ha ha ha. My daughter. The SSS-level gifted person is actually my daughter. Old Chen. Old Lin. My daughter is actually an SSS-level talent. Ha ha ha. When you looked at her father who never smiled. I am as happy as a child at this moment. Seeing how excited his father was at this moment, Wen Ya nervously tugged at the corner of her father's clothes, as if she had something to say. But after she looked at Principal Chun and Director Lin beside her father, advertisement, it was decided to hide the news that Ning Yi forced himself to eat the fruit. Wen Ya has a feeling that she can awaken SSS-level supernatural talents. It must have something to do with what Ning Yi feeds himself. She didn't want this news to be known to other interested parties. After all, the world today is very unsafe. In Tiandu City where they are located, all kinds of horrible things happen every day. As the daughter of the captain of the Tiandu City Defense Force, Wen Ya knows much more than the average person. When Zhang Wo was pulled by Wen Ya's clothes, he quickly recovered from his excitement. He smiled and rubbed his baby girl's head. Then he looked at the principal and the director of the Education Bureau and said, "Look, I was so happy that I forgot all about the business. Xiaoya reminded me. Principal Chun, Bureau Lin, please hand over Xiaoya to our defense team next. We will bring her safely to the protection center in Tiandu City." As soon as these words came out, Chen Wei and Lin Hai suddenly felt dissatisfied on their faces. You defense team alone can't do it. Let's go, Principal Chun. We have to escort him personally. The Forestry Bureau is right. Yaya is the only SSS-level gifted person in Tiandu City in the past 200 years. We must participate in this escort operation. When Zhang Wo saw that he could not refuse the kindness of Principal Chin and Lin Hai, in desperation, they had no choice but to let them follow the escort vehicle and go to the protection center in Tiandu City. As long as you get there, even ferocious beasts with the strength of a king will come. There is no way to break through the strong defense there. Normally, that place is used to protect important people in Tiandu City. but as an SSS-level gifted person. In the future, he will definitely become an important figure in the country and even the world. Opening to Wen Ya in advance is in compliance with regulations. What's more, this was ordered by the mayor himself. Open the protection center to this genius in Tiandu City. When Wen Ya was about to leave the campus with the large army, her eyes quickly searched the crowd. Soon, she found Ning Yi, who was standing in the distance and looking at her with a wicked smile. She is so familiar with Ning Yi. The evil smile on Ning Yi's face immediately made Wen Ya understand. The fact that he awakened his SS-level talent has nothing to do with him. Just when Wen Ya was about to walk out of the escort team and question Ning Yi, she hadn't taken 2 steps forward yet. She felt her father Wen Zhangwo's hand pressing her shoulder. Don't run around. Once the news of your awakened SSS-level talent spreads, danger will follow. Our Tiandu City is very unsafe recently. You have to go back with us and move to a safe location immediately. Wen Ya was stunned for a moment and was about to say something. Ning Yi suddenly waved to her. Then he avoided her gaze and rejoined the long queue for the talent test. Soon, Wen Ya was escorted by a group of elite soldiers from the defense team and walked towards the defense vehicle parked at the school gate. The students around them all opened their eyes wide, looking at all this with great envy. Many people are thinking, why wasn't I the one who awakened the SSS-level talent? But among these people, Ning Yi is definitely not included. Soon, Wen Ya was arranged to get into the special car of the defense team. When the car started, she looked outside through the car window and happened to see Ning Yi standing behind the crowd. He still has that irritating smirk on his face. It is indeed him. It must have something to do with him. Watching Wen Ya being taken away by the defense team, Ning Yi's mouth showed a smile. It seems that natural devil fruits such as frozen fruit are indeed this-level talents. I don't know what the next random fruit will be. At this moment, the system notification sound suddenly sounded in Ning Yi's mind. The frozen fruit has been successfully sent by the host. The host automatically obtains a new devil fruit. New fruits are randomly selected. Congratulations to the host for successfully obtaining the natural type of burning fruit. Chapter 3. Ning Yi looked at the second devil fruit awarded to him by the system and raised his brows slightly. Burning fruit? This is one of the natural fruits among pirates, the top natural ability that can control flames. However, his excitement was fleeting, and a trace of complicated emotions flashed through his heart. In the world of pirates, the performance of the burning fruit is always a bit regrettable. It is obviously a top-notch natural fruit, but in Ace's hand, he was crushed by Akainu's rock berries. It even cost Ace's life in the end. Obviously, the temperature of the flame should be much higher than the magma. So why was it so completely suppressed by Akainu? Isn't it the user's fault? Ning Yi whispered softly. However, since the Xiao fruit is now in his own hands, then it will never be buried again. A confident smile appeared on his lips, and he whispered, Xiao fruit, I will find a suitable host for you. Just when Ning Yi was thinking about who should give this devil fruit, suddenly, a voice interrupted his thoughts. Ning Yi, it's your turn. Ning Yi walked out of the team and walked to the talent stone. When Ning Yi stood under the talent stone and gently put his hand on it, the entire test site fell silent instantly. Everyone held their breath, waiting for the talent stone to shine. However, after a moment, there was no light on the test equipment. No light. One student whispered in disbelief. What does this mean? He has no talent. Another student asked in surprise. How is that possible? This is Ning Yi. The overall score has always been among the top 3 in the entire grade. How could he not have talent? There was no light shining on the talent stone. Li Hao, the head teacher, let out a long sigh, with a hint of imperceptible regret in his eyes. Ning Yi, it seems that your efforts have not been favored by God. However, the regret in Li Hao's eyes quickly disappeared. Every year there are many students like Ning Yi who work very hard but end up without any special talents. After all, talent is given by God. If God doesn't give it to you, no one can do anything. Li Hao patted Ning Yi's shoulder gently, with comfort in his tone. Ning Yi, you are a very hard-working student, but talent is really something you can't control. If you don't have innate abilities, even if you get full marks in the college entrance examination, you can only go to a martial arts college. After all, the current world of abilities relies too much on innate abilities, but I believe that with how hard you work, even if you take martial arts, you should be. Li Hao hasn't finished speaking yet. Ning Yi smiled slightly and interrupted Li Hao's words without any loss in his eyes. It's okay, Teacher Li, I'm ready. His tone was calm, as if he already knew the result in advance. Looking at Ning Yi as if he could see through the world of mortals, Li Hao sighed helplessly again. Isn't this child stunned by the shock? After the talent test is over, I have to comfort him. Ning Yi just left the talent test place. Watch his back as he leaves. The students' discussion gradually increased. Some classmates who had been jealous of Ning Yi even laughed out loud. It's such a pity that after working so hard every day, we end up being useless. Haha, what's the use of trying hard? If you can't even awaken your supernatural powers, how can you talk about the future? I didn't expect that the top graders in our school would turn out to be trash without talent. Ning Yi heard these words in his heart. He smiled slightly and didn't care at all. Advertisement, he is a very generous person and does not mind these ridicules at all. Just quietly took out a pen and paper after leaving the crowd. He wrote down all the guys who had just spoken to mock him in a small notebook. When Ning Yi left the testing site, he did not show any frustration, but was full of smiles. At this time, the system's beep sounded in Ning Yi's mind again. Does the host immediately activate the reward of giving frozen fruits? This time, Ning Yi nodded without hesitation. Yes. The next moment, an extremely cold power surged out of his body instantly. This is an ice power that is 10 times more powerful than Wen Ya's awakened freezing ability. It's running through his body. At this moment, it seemed as if the entire world's ice was obeying his command. As long as he is willing, he can instantly turn an area into a hell of ice and snow. 10 times the power of frozen fruit is really good. Every time Wen Ya improves in the future, I will get 10 times the feedback on my abilities. In this case, we must supervise Wen Ya's practice in the future. Ning Yi left the campus with a smirk on his face. However, after he left campus, at this moment, there is once again a chill in the campus. It's strange. Why is it so cold? Li Hao touched his arm and found that he had goosebumps. He glanced back in the direction of the campus entrance doubtfully, and then said to himself, it must be that Wen Ya's awakened ice talent is too powerful, and she still hasn't recovered yet, he muttered. In the end, the cold feeling was attributed to Wen Ya's abnormal abilities. However, he didn't know the real source of this chill. It was Ning Yi who had quietly left. The power of frozen fruit is just the beginning, and who are you going to feed this xiao fruit to? However, Ning Yi did not hang out outside. Instead, he returned home directly. The house is still quiet. Only Bianmu Huahua was lying on the sofa, watching TV and yawning lazily. On the coffee table next to the sofa, there is also a large bowl of dog food and several bottles of beer. Under the coffee table, there are many beer bottle caps that have been bitten open by it. Ning Yi walked in and looked at the lazy border collie, and he smiled slightly. Huahua is a very smart border collie. It was a gift given to him by Wen Ya on his 16th birthday. In fact, it was said to be a gift for Ning Yi. In fact, it's because Wen Ya's family doesn't allow her to be raised. He had no choice but to stay with Ning Yi. But the rations of Huahua, the job of shoveling the shit and walking the dog, Wen Ya personally visits every day to solve the problem. Looking at Huahua, who was sitting on the sofa watching TV, Ning Yi came to it with a smile. At this moment, a strange idea suddenly appeared in Ning Yi's mind. If Huahua eats the burning fruit, will I also gain 10 times the power of the burning fruit? After all, the system didn't say that this devil fruit can only be eaten by humans. Thinking of this, Ning Yi raised the corners of his mouth and lay directly next to Huahua. See the expression on Ning Yi's face. Huahua glanced sideways at Ning Yi. He gave Ning Yi a disdainful look. Its little eyes seemed to be saying something. Jiao Min, what weird things are you planning to do to harm me today? Looking at Huahua's disdainful eyes, Ning Yi rubbed its head with a smirk on his face. He pressed his palms around its eyes. It seems to want to straighten its small slanted eyes. Huahua, I brought you a good thing today. Wen Ya has eaten one. I'll leave this one to you. Advertisement. Ning Yi took out the xiao fruit from his backpack, with a hint of amusement in his eyes. Huahua seemed to understand Ning Yi's words. It looked at the fruit in Ning Yi's hand, with a little curiosity in its eyes. Then Huahua put his dog's nose close to it and moved it slightly. The next moment, the fiery dog's face changed drastically in an instant. It stretched out its front paws and started pawing crazily on the sofa. At the same time, he raised one hind leg and pushed hard in the direction of the toilet, and barked twice loudly at Ning Yi, seemingly saying, "Thief son, take the history away from me and throw it into the toilet quickly." Seeing Huahua's actions at this time, Ning Yi couldn't help but be a little surprised. You have a nose like a dog. When you didn't smell it, but you smelled it? Ning Yi smiled. But the bad taste in his heart did not diminish at all. After Hua heard Ning Yi say that when Ya had eaten such a fruit, its eyes widened with disbelief on its face. He didn't even eat the shit, but his shit shovel actually ate it? Could it be that the reason when Ya shovels away the daddy she made every day is actually to? The picture is so beautiful. Hua is a bit hesitant to think about it. Suddenly the angry dog's face was filled with shock. Hua, come on, eat. After eating it, you will be able to breathe fire just like your name. Ning Yi called softly, stretched out his hand, and handed the burning fruit to Hua. However, Hua obviously had a strong aversion to this thing that exuded a special smell. It took a few steps back slightly. The dog's face is full of resistance. You don't want to eat? If this were taken out, even a strong man in the realm of kings would have to break his head to grab it. Woof woof. B asterisk 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 D. Woof woof woof. What about lying to dogs? What the hell? You dare to scold me after I rebelled against you? I have to stuff it in your mouth today. After saying that, Ning Yi directly held down Hua. He forcibly took the xiao fruit and prepared to stuff it into the dog's mouth. Hua suddenly pounced on Ning Yi at this moment. With a headbutt, the xiao fruit in Ning Yi's hand flew out. Then he sat down on the devil fruit and smashed it to pieces. At this moment, Hua looked at Ning Yi like a winner. It's as if the fruit is rotten and you don't need to eat it. Ning Yi, who saw this scene, burst out laughing. Tisk, look at you. Why do you have to break it? If it wasn't rotten, I could still give it away. But now that the fruit is rotten, it's your big but that will rot it. Maybe it's even stained with your daddy. In that case, you'll have to eat it yourself. Ning Yi came to Hua with a wicked smile. Realizing that something was wrong, Hua wanted to run out immediately. But at this moment, Ning Yi suddenly took out an oversized slipper. At the same time, he used the ability of the frozen fruit to generate a bunch of sharp ice spikes on the slippers. Once the slipper is removed, there are more than 10 holes. Seeing Ning Yi's unique move, Hua was immediately frightened. Normally, Ning Yi gets scared as soon as he takes out his slippers. Not to mention the plus version of ice spike slippers that Ning Yi took out now. This will kill the dog. Woof, Hua's tone has softened. It is begging Ning Yi for mercy. I have no choice. Should I have ice-spiked slippers or eat a devil fruit? It's your choice. Under the intimidation of the big ice-spiked slippers that Ning Yi took out, in the end, Hua walked up to the rotten xiao fruit and swallowed it all while suppressing his nausea. Congratulations to the host for successfully delivering the xiao fruit. In the future, those who have the ability to practice the burning fruit will receive 10 times the income from cultivating the fruit's ability for the host. Does the host now choose to obtain the ability to burn the burning fruit immediately? Yes. Chapter 4. A few seconds after eating the xiao fruit, Hua's body began to change. Its originally black and white hair gradually became a fiery red color. It's as if every hair has turned into a burning flame. Hua's tail became like a blazing torch, with bright fire jumping from the tip of its tail. And its limbs were also surrounded by a circle of flames, as if 4 hooves had stepped on the flames. Good guy. He's so handsome. Sending such a handsome dog to the hospital for breeding will cost him at least 10,000 yuan at a time. Ning Yi couldn't help but admire. Hua looked at Ning Yi with a smirk on his face. It tilted its head in confusion and soon, it noticed its changes. Hua quickly went to the mirror in the living room and saw himself in the mirror. Hua was immediately frightened by the dog in front of him. Woof! Boom! Hua screamed and directly sprayed out a large ball of flame. Set a small patch of carpet in front of the mirror on fire. See the flames coming out of your mouth. Hua was so frightened that he backed away again and again. His tail clamped tightly. It couldn't help but look back at its burning tail. When he saw his tail was lit on fire. Ouch! Hua suddenly let out a shrill scream and began to run around the room crazily. It jumped from the sofa to the coffee table, and then from the coffee table to the windowsill. Small fireballs shot out from his mouth from time to time, and he even accidentally set the curtains on fire and the sofa on fire. Hua, stop running around. Stop it! Ning Yi shouted while using the ability to burn the fruit to control the flames. With a wave of his hand, the flames were quickly absorbed and the sparks on the curtains were also suppressed. But at this moment Hua was completely in panic. While spitting fire from his mouth, he kept stepping on things, and the books and vases on the coffee table were knocked upside down. You want to save your home, right? Ning Yi gritted his teeth. The ability to simply freeze the fruit directly creates 4 walls of ice, reducing Huohua's range of activities. Until the fire raged inside the ice wall for more than an hour. It finally stopped and sat on the floor panting. While sticking out his tongue, fire was spraying out of his mouth. However, Huohua now seems to have adapted to his ability to breathe fire. At the same time, I also learned that the flames in my mouth and body will not burn me. Ning Yi wiped the sweat from his forehead, helplessly looked at the messy house, and couldn't help but laugh and curse. Huohua, you really need to learn to control yourself in the future. Advertisement otherwise, no matter where we go or where we click, we will really have to sleep on the street. Huohua stared, seeming to realize that he had gotten into trouble. He whined twice, sprayed out a few sparks, and lay on the ground obediently. Ning Yi walked over, squatted down, and touched Huohua's head. Okay, you are now a complete superpower. Don't spit fire randomly in the future, you know? Try to put the fire out of you. Huohua tilted his head and looked at Ning Yi, as if thinking about his words. After a while, he nodded. That human-like appearance made Ning Yi dumbfounded. Soon, under Huohua's control, the fire on it actually went out. But Huohua's hair couldn't change, and his whole body was the color of flames. By the way, I forgot to tell you something. Ning Yi patted Huohua on the shoulder and said seriously, you are now an SSS-level gifted person. Like Wen Ya, you can also practice to become stronger and become a ferocious beast in the future. Don't underestimate yourself. When Huohua heard this, his eyes immediately lit up. It seemed like he really understood. It gently rubbed Ning Yi's hand with its nose. Perhaps because of happiness, the flame on its tail started to beat happily again. Just as Ning Yi was cleaning the house that was messed up by the fire, the doorbell suddenly rang. Who? Ning Yi put down the mop in his hand, walked to the door and looked out through the peephole. He couldn't help but be a little surprised when he saw a man wearing the uniform of the Tiandu City Defense Force standing outside the door. Ning Yi, it's me. Brother Wang. Open the door. A familiar voice came from outside the door. Ning Yi breathed a sigh of relief and opened the door. The person who came was none other than Uncle Wen's subordinate, Xiao Wang. He is of medium height and has a kind smile on his face. But as soon as he entered the door, he wrinkled his nose. Hey, why does it smell like burning? Did your house just catch fire? Ning Yi was stunned and quickly waved his hand. No. The pot got a little burnt when I was cooking. It's okay. Xiao Wang glanced at Ning Yi suspiciously and then scanned the room. Then he warned seriously. How old are you when you are still playing with fire at home? What if there's a fire? Advertisement, fortunately, the fire was put out in time. Otherwise, as Xiao Wang said this, he looked around at the burnt places. But soon, his eyes were attracted to Huohua lying on the sofa. The moment he saw Huohua, his eyes suddenly lit up. Oh, Huohua's coat is so handsome. Ning Yi, where did Huohua get his dye? I'll get the same one for my dog later. Forehead, Ning Yi scratched his head and smiled bravely. Haha, I dyed it at a pet shop in the old city. I have the last bottle of dye. When it becomes available in the future, I will call you and come with me. Xiao Wang didn't think much and nodded. Next time you go to get dyed, remember to call me. Definitely. By the way, Brother Wang, do you have something serious to do here this time? After Ning Yi's reminder, Xiao Wang quickly remembered the business he came for. He patted Ning Yi on the shoulder and said, by the way, Captain Wen asked me to come find you. Wen Ya is at the City Protection Center now. She asked to see you by name. Wen Ya. Ning Yi raised his eyebrows, a little surprised, and thought to himself, did you find out so quickly that it was a problem with the fruit? Forget it, you have to know it sooner or later. I just want to teach her how to use the fruit ability this time. Although Ning Yi already knew what Wen Ya wanted to do to him, but Ning Yi still pretended to be confused. What do you want Wen Ya to do with me? Shouldn't she have been protected? I don't know that. You'll know when you go there. Xiao Wang shrugged. But Captain Wen has told me that this matter is very important. You'd better come with me quickly. Ning Yi nodded and didn't ask any more questions. I'll take Huohua with me. Just let him accompany Wen Ya. Xiao Wang thought for a while and nodded. Agree with Ning Yi and bring Huohua along. He knew that Huohua was Wen Ya's pet. As long as it reaches the place, Wen Ya can ask the superiors to make an exception and let it in as soon as she opens her mouth. In this way, Ning Yi followed Xiao Wang and led Huohua, set off towards the safest place in Tiandu City. But before leaving, the system's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. The Xiao fruit has been successfully sent by the host. The host automatically obtains a new devil fruit. New fruits are randomly selected. Congratulations to the host for successfully obtaining the natural sparkling fruit. The host can take out this fruit at any time. Chapter 5. Ning Yi hurried to the Tianhai City Protection Center with fire. This place is the safest place in the entire Tianhai City. Generally speaking, Ning Yi is not qualified to enter this place. But after all, he was the one invited by Wen Ya, an SSS-level talent. Even the director of the Protection Center has to give Wen Ya this face. When entering the Protection Center, the fiery appearance caught the attention of the staff. He was even almost caught as a ferocious beast. Finally, the staff checked the pet name tag hanging on Huohua's neck. After confirming with Wen Ya from the Protection Center several times, he was given the go-ahead. Huohua's body is as handsome as flames. It really attracted the curious eyes of many staff members. Many staff members even started taking crazy photos of Huohua with their mobile phones. I am planning to find a pet shop to dye my pet this color after get off work. After going through layers of security checks, Ning Yi finally walked into the lounge of the Protection Center. The room Wen Ya was in was not big. It had a structure of 2 bedrooms and 1 living room, but it had an extra warehouse. Inside the warehouse, food and water are piled neatly. This made Ning Yi have to sigh. The most advanced shelter is indeed well prepared. With so much food and water, it wouldn't be a problem to stay here for 2 or 3 years. Wen Ya, where is Uncle Wen? After taking a look at the structure of the room, Ning Yi smiled and looked at Wen Ya sitting on the sofa. Dad just received a call, saying that the ferocious beasts around Tianhai City have started rioting again, and the defense team is short of manpower and he has to go out temporarily. When Wen Ya was talking, Huohua also greeted Wen Ya enthusiastically. Ouch! I heard this familiar dog barking. Only then did Wen Ya realize that this dog seemed to be his pet at Ning Yi's place. Is this fire? Looking at this big dog whose body was full of fire and resembled her own pet dog, Wen Ya couldn't help but be surprised. Yes, it's Huohua. It's just that after eating another fruit, it mutated. Having said this, Ning Yi lightly kicked Huohua's, but instead with a smile. Huohua, give Wen Ya a whole life. Woof! I saw the Huohua dog opening its mouth, and suddenly a flame shot out from its mouth. Immediately afterwards, all the flame-colored fluff on Huohua's body turned into real flames, and a small flame appeared on his tail. Seeing this, Wen Ya's eyes widened in shock. Her mouth opened wide, her face full of disbelief. Wait a minute, so Huohua also has SSS-level talents? Or is it a fire-based talent? Ning Yi nodded, smiled, and said the fact that might make everyone crazy. Huohua will be the first dog in the world with SSS-level talents and abilities. Maybe it will enter Tiandu Superpower University with you. When Ya's eyes widened, she couldn't believe what she just heard. Huohua, my own pet dog. Advertisement after eating the strange fruit given by Ning Yi. He actually awakened his SSS-level talent. Looking at Huohua, his whole body was burning with hot flames, like a burning fireball. This made Wen Ya have no choice but to believe everything Ning Yi said. After a long time, Wen Ya finally recovered from the huge shock. I can't believe it, Wen Ya murmured, then came back to her senses and looked at Ning Yi with an interrogating expression on her face. Since you have that special fruit for me and Huohua to eat, you must be an SSS-level gifted person now, right? Tell me honestly now, what kind of SSS-level talent are you now? Looking at Wen Ya's serious look, Ning Yi once again had a smirk on his lips. I don't have any natural abilities. As you know, I have always liked martial arts, and there is no other power that would allow me to flourish more in martial arts. This sentence is said very plainly, but it is like a pebble thrown into a calm lake, causing ripples. Wen Ya was stunned, her eyes wide open. Obviously, she couldn't believe it. You don't have any talents? How is that possible? Ning Yi, why don't you have any superpowers? Obviously, you have that special fruit in your hand that can. Before Wen Ya could finish her words, Ning Yi put his finger directly on her mouth. Stop publicizing this matter too much. Just know it yourself. If you are really curious about why I don't eat devil fruits, just think that the improvement of devil fruits for me is too small. Becoming an SSS-level gifted person, will the improvement for Ning Yi be too small? Hearing this, Wen Ya was shocked in her heart. Then her face was filled with shock and confusion. Obviously, she still couldn't understand the meaning of Ning Yi's words. But looking at the confident expression on Ning Yi's face, and after seeing with his own eyes that Huohua was also turned into a dog with SSS-level talents, Wen Ya had no choice but to accept what Ning Yi had just said. She was silent for a while, and her eyes fell on Ning Yi's handsome face. Suddenly, She seemed to have made up her mind, raised her head, and spoke firmly. Since you don't want to become a gifted person and go to college, then I will accompany you to go to a martial arts college. Anyway, you gave me my SSS-level talent and abilities. After hearing Wen Ya's words, Ning Yi panicked for a moment. After all, I still count on Wen Ya to practice hard and get as much feedback as possible from practicing the frozen fruits. If she goes to a martial arts college with him, then wouldn't the frozen fruit cultivation feedback you get be less? It's obviously been arranged. You go to Tiandu, and I go to college. We all have a bright future. It would be better now if Wen Ya went to college with him. I am afraid that all the old professors from Tiandu University will be dispatched together. One person has a set of famous stunts and turns him into a scumbag for daring to let Wen Ya waste his top-notch supernatural talent. Cough, cough. Wen Ya, what did you say? You are now an SSS-level gifted person, and as a rule, you will be recommended to Tiandu University, the best university in the country. Wen Ya looked at Ning Yi's nervous look, and a hint of cunning flashed in her eyes. Who said I must go to Tiandu University? Advertisement, I am now an SSS-level gifted person. I don't need to take the college entrance examination. I can choose from universities all over the country. What's wrong with me wanting to go to junior college with you? I don't want to go to Tiandu University. No one can force me, right? Are you right? Hua? Woof woof. Ning Yi suddenly had a headache looking at the rebellious person and dog he had cultivated. If Wen Ya didn't go to Tiandu University because of him, he went to junior college with him. I'm afraid that if I don't want to be investigated immediately by many big bosses above, wouldn't my plan of going to a college to teach the 6 styles and hockey and let more people practice for me go bankrupt? He is still weak now, so he doesn't want to attract the attention of the higher-ups prematurely. Yaya, stop joking. You are an SSS-level talent. Your future will definitely be bright. You don't have to stay in a junior college with me. And Wen Ya seemed to have caught Ning Yi at this moment. Still looking at Ning Yi firmly. I have decided, Ning Yi, if you go to junior college, I will go with you. Who asked you to give me the SSS-level talent? My lady, I will be willful for once. Woof. As Wen Ya spoke, Hua seemed to start to stir up trouble. Ning Yi was a little helpless, but his real purpose couldn't be told to Wen Yamming. At this time, he even regretted telling her about the devil fruit. However, it is too late to regret now. Ning Yi had no choice but to change the topic temporarily and get rid of this matter. Wen Ya, let's do this. I have a secret that I haven't told you, but you have to promise me something first before I can tell this secret. Secret? What secret? After hearing the secret mentioned by Ning Yi, Wen Ya's curiosity suddenly increased. You have to agree first, and then I'll tell you. Seeing Wen Ya's hesitation, the corners of Ning Yi's mouth turned up slightly. Having grown up with Wen Ya, he naturally understands. With her curiosity, she will definitely agree in the end. Oh, it's really appetizing. I promise you. Hurry up and tell your secret. Ning Yi smiled slightly and said, in fact, if you eat a natural devil fruit, you will automatically master a magical skill. What magic skill can you tell me? A trace of curiosity flashed in Wen Ya's eyes. Seeing success attracted Wen Ya's interest. Ning Yi's eyes flashed with a hint of cunning, and he said with a smile, this magical skill is called elementalization. Chapter 6. Wen Ya's eyes opened wide, obviously unable to digest what Ning Yi just said. Elementalization? This reminded her of what was mentioned in the textbook. Elementalization is an ability that only king-level elemental talents can master. However, Ning Yi actually said that he wanted to teach her this ability? She couldn't believe her ears. You said you wanted to teach me elementalization? How is this possible? I have just reached the silver level. Besides, you are an incompetent person. How could you possibly teach me this ability? Wen Ya asked in a low voice, with a little uncertainty in her tone. Ning Yi smiled slightly, as if he had been prepared, and said calmly, sure. For ordinary elemental talent users, elementalization can only touch the threshold when they reach the king level, but it is different for those with abilities who have eaten devil fruits. The moment you eat the devil fruit, you already have the ability to become elemental. Looking at Ning Yi's confident look at this moment, Wen Ya was still a little skeptical, but she couldn't help but feel a sense of expectation in her heart. What? Have you thought about it? Want to learn? Ning Yi continued to seduce. Wen Ya was silent for a while and nodded directly. Study. Woof woof. Hua also joined in the fun at this moment. Hey, it's better now. Wen Ya, Let's compete with Hua Hua to see who can master elementalization first. Hearing this, Wen Ya couldn't help but roll her eyes at Ning Yi. Go, go, go. There's no way you can compete with dogs in cultivation. Hey, a dog is a dog, and a border collie is a border collie. What's more, our Hua Hua is a mutated border collie. It would be a shame if you didn't compete. Imagine that your body is no longer made of human flesh and blood, but made of blocks of ice. Feel its shape. Feel its properties until you are completely one with it. By the way, Hua Hua, remember to replace ice with fire. When you closed her eyes, thinking about Ning Yi's words quietly, trying to feel herself gradually turning into an ice crystal. Hua Hua also closed his eyes and followed Ning Yi's instructions carefully. At this moment, Wen Ya tried hard to imagine that she had gradually transformed from a human being into a ball of ice and snow, cold and transparent. The energy in her body seemed to be pulled by invisible forces and slowly changed. At the same time, Hua Hua was also thinking seriously on the side. As if it also understood something, it tilted its little head and turned to look at Wen Ya's meticulous appearance. Suddenly, Hua Hua roared, and then his figure flashed. The whole body began to become transparent, gradually blending into the air, and gradually turned into a burning flame. Hey, Hua Hua is so powerful, he succeeded in no time. The sudden disappearance of the fire and the burning flame emerging from the sky surprised Ning Yi. As for Wen Ya, who was thinking, her eyes widened instantly, her mouth opened slightly, and she was completely shocked by the scene in front of her. How is this possible? Advertisement Hua Hua. Hua Hua actually became an element? When you didn't expect it at all. Hua Hua actually successfully completed the elementalization and was able to turn into a ball of flames and appear in front of her. And that wasn't what shocked her the most. What shocked her the most was that Hua Hua was actually faster than her and completed the elemental transformation first. You know, Hua Hua is a dog. For a while, a complex emotion emerged in Wen Ya's heart. There was both surprise and reluctance. She thought hard for a long time, but she still failed to succeed in elementalization. This is impossible. Wen Ya couldn't help but talk to herself, and the desire to win in her heart was directly and completely aroused. I saw her gritting her teeth, taking a deep breath, and determined to keep working hard. She closed her eyes again and began to focus on her feelings, trying to unite herself with the elemental ice crystals. She imagined the cool, icy breath and tried her best to feel the connection between herself and the ice crystals. But no matter how hard she tried, she could never fully grasp that power, and her mood became a little restless. Ning Yi seemed to be aware of Wen Ya's emotions. He walked to Wen Ya, patted her shoulder, and comforted her softly. Don't be anxious, relax, and it will take care of itself. Your current state is too impatient. If you are impatient, it will affect your perception of the elements. Hearing the familiar voice, Wen Ya took a deep breath. Force yourself to calm down. She closed her eyes again and tried to feel the cold breath again. This time, she tried to relax and immerse herself in the cool feeling. Just when she felt she was about to succeed, suddenly, there was a rapid knock on the door. Bang, bang, bang. Miss Wen Ya, is Miss Wen Ya here? Wen Ya's elementalization was interrupted by the knock on the door. She opened her eyes suddenly, with a trace of anger on her face. She subconsciously looked at Ning Yi, with a trace of confusion in her eyes, and whispered, Ning Yi, what's going on? Ning Yi frowned slightly and felt something was wrong. Miss Wen Ya, please open the door. The voice outside the door rang again. Wen Ya and Ning Yi looked at each other, and after getting Ning Yi's consent, she just stood up, walked to the door, and gently opened the safety door. As soon as the safety door opens, I saw a group of soldiers wearing protective center uniforms standing outside the door. Their faces were solemn, and the atmosphere was extremely serious. Hello, Miss Wen Ya. The leading soldier spoke quickly and introduced himself. My name is Zhang O, and I am the captain of the Tianhai City Protection Center. Sorry to disturb your rest. We have received an emergency order. There is currently a large-scale invasion of vicious beasts in Tianhai City. Wen Ya's heart tightened. When she heard the words, violent beast invasion, she immediately became worried about her father who was on a mission. She stared at Jiang O nervously and asked, Advertisement, an invasion of ferocious beasts? How is the situation? Is it serious? Jiang O looked solemn. The intelligence we received shows that this time the invasion of ferocious beasts has reached a disaster level. The strongest ferocious beast has a master-level strength and is a great threat. We are also following the instructions from our superiors and requesting that Miss Wen Ya be immediately transferred to the deepest part of the protection center to ensure your safety. This is an order personally issued by the mayor. Please, Miss Wen Ya, please act quickly. As soon as he finished speaking, the surrounding soldiers quickly moved into action and surrounded Wen Ya in the center. They followed her towards the deepest area of the protection center. Wen Ya frowned slightly, feeling uneasy in her heart, but she still spoke to Jiang O. Captain Jiang O, can you take my classmate Ning Yi with you? Hearing this, Jiang O glanced at Ning Yi and couldn't help but shake his head. Sorry, the number of places given by the mayor is limited this time, and I can only bring you one person. Please don't make it difficult for us. After that, Jiang O winked and asked the last two soldiers to leave the team. Others gathered together, surrounding Wen Ya in the middle. Take her towards the deepest part of the protection center, which is also the safest place. However, what none of the soldiers noticed was, when Wen Ya left, an extremely small fire element suddenly jumped in the air and flew into Wen Ya's sleeve. At this time, I noticed this small flame. In addition to Wen Ya who had her arm burned, there was also Ning Yi who had been staring at Hua. Boy, stop looking. Face the reality, kid. From now on, Miss Wen Ya will only be a white moonlight in your memory. Maybe you will never have the chance to meet again. I've met someone like her before. One of the two soldiers began to pat Ning Yi on the shoulder in an experienced tone, trying to comfort him. However, he hasn't finished speaking yet. Ning Yi couldn't help but rolled his eyes and cruelly interrupted his memories. That would be even better. If she had to chase me to go to junior college, I would have a headache. As soon as these words were spoken, the two soldiers immediately became dissatisfied. Especially the soldier who just wanted to educate Ning Yi with his experience. His attitude towards him immediately changed 180 degrees. Hey, I said you kid is more narcissistic than me. Stand at attention and stand still. The gate is over there. Get out quickly. I just hate guys who are more narcissistic than me. Just listen to a click. The door of Tianhai City Protection Center was directly closed. Ning Yi, who was standing at the door, looked at the closed door of the protection center. The more he thought about it, the more he felt something was wrong. Why didn't the invasion of the ferocious beast come earlier or later? Why did it come just after Wen Ya had just eaten the devil fruit? Is there some conspiracy here? Thinking of this, Ning Yi was still a little worried about Wen Ya. If Wen Ya had learned elementalization, he would have turned around and left. After all, if she uses elemental transformation to save her life, no one can do anything to her unless a powerful person of the Emperor level arrives. It's a pity. Forget it. I'd better go take a look. Ning Yi shook his head helplessly. Then he directly found a place where no one could see him, and turned into an ice element as small as possible that almost no one could notice. Re-enter through the ventilation duct of the protection center. Chapter 7. The elemental Ning Yi moved forward quickly along the ventilation duct of the protection center. The pipes are narrow and tortuous, and there is a damp smell in the air. Ning Yi, who had turned his body into a tiny piece of ice element, almost blended into the surrounding environment. It was like a breeze flowing freely through the dark pipe. Whenever he passed a curve or a narrow gap, he could see the cleverly arranged traps inside the pipeline. The layout of these institutions seems to prevent outsiders from invading. That's great. If I hadn't used my elemental ability, I might have been discovered. Ning Yi felt a little lucky that these traps still couldn't detect him who turned into a tiny element. After bypassing the last mechanical mechanism and reaching the deepest part of the ventilation duct, Ning Yi breathed a sigh of relief. He could feel it. The deeper he went into the protection center, the traps arranged around the ventilation ducts become more complex and precise. But none of them have the ability to detect elementalization. It makes sense. After all, elementalization can only be mastered by king-level bosses. The protection center in Tianhai City can only temporarily resist enemies with king-level strength at best. It is normal if it cannot be detected. Following the ventilation duct, Ning Yi finally came to the door of a room in the deepest part of the protection center. However, what makes Ning Yi feel strange is, the last room in the protection center seemed unusually quiet, but the silence made him suspicious. According to the original plan, Wen Ya should be arranged here. This is supposed to be the most secure and well-guarded place. However, there is no guard at the door of the room now. All these anomalies made Ning Yi feel a little unusual. What's going on? Wen Ya was assigned here. The protection center should strengthen its vigilance. Is there something wrong? Ning Yi frowned, and doubts began to arise in his heart. The other party seems to be protecting Wen Ya, But why is there no defense in the most heavily protected place? There is something wrong with this. No, I have to go down and check. Just do it. I saw an extremely smiling ice crystal floating down from the ventilation duct. Didn't cause any exception. Ning Yi gently approached the door, pressed against it, and listened carefully. However, there was still no sound in the room, as if everything was covered in the depths of silence. Does this door use special soundproofing equipment? Or was Wen Ya not brought here at all? His intuition told him that the second one might be the biggest. Advertisement: if Wen Ya was taken away by someone else, then no more time should be wasted now. Ning Yi hesitated for a moment, and a trace of determination flashed in his eyes. The ice crystals he turned into left the door again and floated back to the ventilation duct. This process has still not been discovered by anyone. Ning Yi originally thought of floating directly into the house along the ventilation duct. However, what surprised Ning Yi? The ventilation duct of this house in the deepest part of the protection center is actually separate, not connected to other ventilation ducts. Seeing this, Ning Yi couldn't help but sigh helplessly. It is worthy of being the deepest house. Not only does it use a seamless energy door, but the ventilation ducts are also independent. However, this doesn't trouble me. If that's the case, then the only choice is to use the hockey of knowledge. Ning Yi took a deep breath, waved his hand gently, and the energy in his body began to surge. Seeing and hearing color haki, this is the ability to sense the breath of life around you. It was one of the 3 colors of domineering that Ning Yi had when he was just a baby. As Ning Yi's eyes gradually closed, he entered a state of meditation. He focused his attention on his surroundings, and his mind moved slightly. The domineering force of seeing and hearing is like an expanding ripple, covering the entire surrounding area in an instant. After a while, the entire room was inspected by Ning Yi, but Ning Yi couldn't help but frown at this moment. Seeing and hearing the domineering perception did not capture Wen Ya's aura as he expected. The room was still empty, without anyone. If there's no one here, then where did Wen Ya go? Is Wen Ya being targeted by some people? Thinking of this, Ning Yi suddenly felt something bad. He didn't have time to think about it further, so he could only expand the scope of his knowledge and domineering power. Try to find traces of Wen Ya in a larger area. Fortunately, I have been working hard to practice and promote domineering in private for more than 10 years. Otherwise, I would not be able to achieve this level of knowledge now. Ning Yi sighed at his own wisdom, while quickly searching for all the information that could be used. Every time the perception expands, Ning Yi can feel more details. He carefully controlled his inner fluctuations and tried not to let his emotions overly affect the operation of his abilities. Just when the sight and sound haki expanded to a wider range, Ning Yi's mind suddenly shook. He actually heard the language of Neon Country in the room on the other side of the protection center. This discovery made Ning Yi almost unable to believe his ears. What's going on? In a small third-tier city like Tiandu City, how could someone from the Neon Kingdom appear here? Moreover, judging from their tone, it seemed that they were discussing some urgent matter. Advertisement. All this makes Ning Yi feel even more uneasy. Why do people from the Neon Kingdom appear in the protection center in Tiandu City? Didn't they declare war on the Dragon Kingdom a long time ago? Why do you appear in the safest place in Tiandu City? Is there a mole inside this protection center? Ning Yi's mood sank sharply, and more questions began to flash in his mind. Could this invasion of ferocious beasts also be related to the people of Neon Country? Also, who is that mole? As the doubts in his heart continued to accumulate, Ning Yi's face became heavier. Must go see it. Ning Yi carefully controlled the ice crystals he turned into and flew quietly to the room where the neon Chinese language came from. His movements were extremely light, and he made almost no sound. It was like an invisible ghost, quietly approaching the group of strangers. During the flight, Ning Yi always remained alert. Seeing and hearing the color haki continues to sense the changes around him. He is always ready to deal with any emergencies. As the distance got closer, Ning Yi could feel that the atmosphere in the room became more and more tense. Several men from the Neon Country were talking in low voices, their voices low and rapid, as if they were discussing some important matters. Ning Yi held his breath and carefully controlled the shape of the ice crystals to the minimum. He entered the room quietly through the ventilation duct. I saw many naked people lying around in this room. Among these people, Ning Yi even saw the captain of the protection center team who just appeared at Wen Ya's door. Jiang-O, why is this guy lying here? Ning Yi slowly floated towards Jiang-O. Seeing that people like Jiang-O were still breathing, Ning Yi couldn't help but breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that these people from the Neon Kingdom are not here to kill people. In this case, Wen Ya's safety should not be worried for the time being. But Wen Ya didn't know where she went for the time being. Even though Ning Yi was using his domineering power, he didn't notice where Wen Ya was. That's weird. Where will Wen Ya be imprisoned? Just when he was thinking about where these people would lock Wen Ya, suddenly, a fire element that was so small that it was almost invisible to the naked eye flew out from a Neon Nation member who was kneeling in the front row. These dozen people from the Neon Kingdom did not discover the existence of the tiny fire element of this machine. It's like not discovering the piece of ice element Ning Yi transformed into. If Ning Yi hadn't been using the domineering spirit of seeing and hearing all the time, he probably wouldn't be able to match the fire element transformed into fire. Seeing the fire elements flying around outside, Ning Yi suddenly smiled. Tisk, TSK, at this critical moment, we still have to rely on our fire. Chapter 8. Ning Yi followed Huahua quietly and observed its movements. The fire turned into a fire element, like a silent flame elf, circled around the leading neon man, and then quickly returned to the pocket on his waist. Ning Yi's eyes narrowed, looking at the bag hanging on the waist of the leader of the neon team. Something strange flashed in his eyes. This is a space bag? The so-called space bag is a space prop made from the stomach bag of the devouring beast. The devouring beast is a high-level ferocious beast, with platinum-level strength even when it is just born. There are even records that there are emperor-level devouring beasts in the northern abyss. Their stomach pouches have their own space, and they can eat things 10 times larger than their body size, and can digest them quickly. But later, a weapon refiner who awakened the talent of weapon refinement successfully made the stomach bag of the devouring beast into a special space prop. Since then, space bags have become popular all over the world. The higher the level of the devouring beast, the better the quality of the space bag that its stomach bag can make. The space bag in front of you that can escape through elementalization should be a low-level space bag. Except for the user of a high-level space bag, even if it becomes an element, it is impossible to escape from it. It seems that Wen Ya was put into this space bag by them. Let's go and have a look. Thinking of this, Ning Yi thought and flew directly into the space bag that Huahua entered. After entering the space bag, Ning Yi found that his judgment was correct. This was indeed a low-level space bag. The space here is small, only about the size of a family bathroom. Wen Ya and Huahua stayed in the middle, looking at each other with wide-eyed stares. Suddenly, Wen Ya raised her head and asked, Huahua, what's going on outside? I thought about it. Why do I feel like something is wrong? I stayed well in the room. Why did Captain Jiang insist that I enter the space bag to escape? Could it be that the protection center in Tiandu City has been breached by ferocious beasts? There was a bit of anxiety in her voice, and she was obviously aware that something was wrong with everything. When Huahua heard her question, he barked a few times in a low voice. But it was obvious that the two of them could only talk to each other, and neither one could understand the other. Wen Ya didn't seem to fully understand Huahua's meaning. She looked at it, and her eyes widened. The two looked at each other, speechless for a moment. It would be great if I could master the ability to elementalize like you. Her eyes fell on Huahua, with a bit of envy in her eyes. Advertisement, forget it. Forget it. Instead of worrying about whether there is something or not, it is better to work harder now and try to master the elements. I still don't believe that I'm not as good as a border collie. However, Wen Ya had just finished her words before she had time to try elementalization. Ning Yi's figure suddenly appeared in front of her. Wen Ya, you must have been deceived by the neon people now. The sudden sound startled Wen Ya and Huahua. Especially Wen Ya. Her eyes widened, and the expression on her face changed from surprise to shock, and finally turned to ecstasy. Ning Yi, why are you here? What the hell is going on? She was stunned for several seconds before finally reacting. Ning Yi smiled slightly, looked at the surprise on her face, and replied calmly. The owner of the space bag you are in now is a neon man, and by his side, as long as there are more than 10 neon people present, and Captain Jiang, who just took you away, seems to have been unconscious for a long time. Wen Ya was stunned when she heard this. Then her pupils suddenly contracted and her face turned pale in an instant. Neons? How did they get into the protection center? How is this possible? Her voice trembled a little, as if she couldn't believe what Ning Yi said. Don't forget, you are now an SSS-level gifted person. It is entirely possible that we will be targeted by spies planted by Neon in Tiandu City. But judging from their current posture, it seems that they want to take you away, not to hurt you. But if you don't cooperate, or if they have trouble taking you out, they might end up killing you. After all, Neon doesn't want to see another rival who can enter the Imperial realm in the future of Dragon Country. I heard Ning Yi's analysis of the matter. Wen Ya also realized the seriousness of the current situation. Ning Yi patted Wen Ya's shoulder and comforted her. So in order to save your life and reduce some trouble for Uncle One, I advise you to master the ability of elementalization as soon as possible. Hearing this, Wen Ya nodded. Without hesitation, she began to try to control the elemental ability that belonged to her. Advertisement, however, despite her several attempts, she still failed. But what's better than before is that she has made some progress. Give her some more time, and she should be able to successfully transform into an element. Just when Wen Ya was about to try again, the entire space bag suddenly vibrated violently. Ning Yi, Wen Ya, and Hua all felt a strong vibration at the same time, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to shake as well. Wen Ya was stunned for a moment and looked up at Ning Yi, while Hua immediately pricked up his ears in alertness. They're starting to move. Wen Ya, you need to hurry up and practice elementalization. Hua, you stay here and protect Wen Ya. I'll go out and take a look. Ning Yi's words fell. He turned directly into an ice crystal and flew out of the space bag. Just like before, the group of Japanese people did not notice anything unusual about the space bag hanging around the captain's waist. When Ning Yi flew out of the space bag and saw the current appearance of this group of Japanese people, he couldn't help but be very surprised. They have now become exactly the same as the guards at the protection center. Even the guy who was the leader of this group of Japanese people. Now he has become Jiang O, the captain of the protection center guard team. But soon, Ning Yi regained his composure. He had roughly guessed the whole process of the matter. I'm afraid that Jiang O and the others who took Wen Ya away before were also transformed from Japanese people by this group of people. Now, looking at their movements, they seem to be preparing to walk out of this room. I can't let you leave so easily. Ning Yi smiled slightly, then controlled his body, which had turned into ice crystal, and slowly flew into the ears of the Japanese leader who had turned into Jiang O. Inukai Ichiro, the leader of this group of Japanese people, felt a sudden chill in his ear canal. Then a warning of danger suddenly appeared in his mind. He was just about to turn around and say something to his men. The next moment, his head was instantly blown up by a huge hexagonal ice crystal that suddenly appeared. The red and white things in the brain had been frozen into ice chips, flying all over the room. Chapter 9. Watching his leader, Captain Inukai, fall to the ground instantly, his head was blown open and blood splattered all around. The pungent smell of blood filled the air. The members of the Neon team standing nearby were all stunned. They couldn't believe what was happening. Captain Inukai, the strongest among them, was killed with one blow. You must know that Captain Inukai's strength has reached the platinum level. What's more, he has the A-level talent of skin petrification. Even within the entire platinum level, they are still powerful beings. But even so, he still could not escape the fate of death in this sudden attack. Looking at the body of Captain Inukai, the mood of the team members instantly changed from the tension of battle to deep fear. They looked at Ning Yi in shock, completely unable to understand. Why can this person, who looks like just an ordinary young man, actually show such terrifying fighting power? Instantly kill Captain Inukai with platinum level strength. Could it be that his strength has reached the level of jade? For a moment, all the Neon people looked at Ning Yi in front of them and did not dare to move. Ning Yi stared at the fallen body indifferently, with the corners of his mouth raised slightly. Is this scary? These people are so cowardly. In fact, it's no wonder that these Neon people who sneaked into the protection center are timid. It's because Ning Yi's appearance was so explosive that it scared them for the time being. Ning Yi killed his boss in seconds. It's normal to not be able to react for a while. However, the fear did not last long. At this moment, Deputy Captain Yumekawa Ishu suddenly comforted the team members in Neon language. Calm down. Calm down. Yumekawa Isua's voice was serious and powerful. Let me see clearly what you are afraid of. This guy is Ning Yi in the information. He is just a student who has just graduated from high school. He doesn't even have any talents. The attack he just made was just a sneak attack. He has appeared now. We no longer have to worry about his sneak attacks. He continued to encourage the team members. Don't forget, you are all elites carefully selected by the organization. Everyone involved in this operation is a strong man with gold-level strength. As warriors of the great Neon Empire, how can you be frightened by a brat with no hair at all? After some reprimands, the mood of this group of Neon people gradually returned to normal under the encouragement of Yumekawa Isua, although they still have doubts in their hearts. But the information they had obtained previously had dissipated most of their fears. Subsequently, several members of the Neon team began to quickly adjust their status and prepare to counterattack. Advertisement: what do these guys call themselves? Should we fight or not? Ning Yi has no patience with this group of people. A cold light flashed in his eyes. In this world, Neon has declared war on the Dragon Kingdom. These are all enemies in front of us, and there is no need for any mercy. Not only will there be no punishment for killing them all, but you will also receive rewards from above. Especially these spies placed in Tiandu City. Ning Yi couldn't help but want to catch them all in one fell swoop. Forget it, I can't understand the birds anyway, so just go ahead and kill them. There was a trace of cruelty in Ning Yi's eyes. He already has a general understanding of the strength of this group of people. The guy who was leading just now was a platinum-level expert. The remaining strength of this group of minions is probably only gold. With gold-level strength, even without using the fruit's ability, Ning Yi is confident that he can defeat them all with just physical skills. After all, these more than 10 years of domineering skills were not in vain. Ice. Ning Yi looked at these neon spies with a trace of ridicule on his lips. The next moment, he gathered the power of the frozen fruit. Lines of frost began to spread rapidly on the ground. The temperature in the air suddenly dropped, and the cold air spread, gradually covering the surrounding environment. In just a few seconds, Ning Yi's surroundings had turned into a cold world. His figure gradually disappeared into the ice and snow, becoming almost invisible, as if he had blended into the ice and snow. This scene happened so fast that no one in the Neon team could react at all. They haven't had time to fight back, and they haven't even seen Ning Yi clearly yet. It has fallen into the scope of Ning Yi's frozen fruit. Then Ning Yi snapped his fingers. The frost quickly spreads to every member of the Neon team. Their bodies froze quickly, as if they were instantly frozen into ice sculptures. But they are not dead, and many people are even thinking about ways to crack it. Oh, it's all because Wen Ya is too weak. Otherwise, she could kill them all with just one frozen fruit. I don't have to take any more risks. Ning Yi sighed helplessly. Then he activated his armament haki and concentrated it on his fist. Bang, bang, bang. Several loud noises were heard, and every frozen enemy was shattered by Ning Yi's punch. Advertisement: the fragments of the ice sculpture scattered like glass, and the smell of blood suddenly appeared in the air in the room. It exudes a disgusting fishy smell. The remaining members of the Neon team had no chance to react. Ning Yi's speed was so fast that they had no time to make any counterattack. They didn't even see Ning Yi's movements, and they had already turned into ice sculpture fragments. The whole process was quiet and fast. Ning Yi showed no sloppiness and was extremely cold-blooded. When the last enemy was beaten to pieces, Ning Yi stood there and took a deep breath of cold air. All the members of the Neon team were cleaned up by him, and the scene was completely silent. Ning Yi's eyes were cold, with no emotion at all. There is no mercy for the enemy. After killing all these people, Ning Yi took a look. It was discovered that these neon people were now corpses, and their appearance had all changed back to their original appearance. It seems that one of these neon people must have a talent that can change the appearance of many people. It's a pity that the guy with such rare talents and abilities has been beaten to pieces by himself. After dealing with these neon spies, Ning Yi took the space bag containing Wen Ya in his hand. Although this is just a low-level space bag, it is still valuable enough. At least Ning Yi can't afford it now. Wen Ya and Hua were released from the space bag. The man and the dog couldn't help but almost vomited when they saw the body parts all over the ground. After all, as a recent graduate, it is normal for him to be unable to adapt to such a tragic scene for a while. Seeing Wen Ya, who was a little nauseated, Ning Yi patted her shoulder to express comfort. How is your elemental training going? It's almost there. Wen Ya forced herself to calm down, and at the same time looked at Ning Yi in disbelief. She couldn't imagine that all of these people were killed by Ning Yi. In that case, let's just use elementalization to escape later. I suspect there are traitors in the top management of Tiandu City. Otherwise, this group of neon people would not be able to enter the protection center. Although Wen Ya found Ning Yi's words a bit unbelievable, but out of trust in Ning Yi, she nodded without hesitation. However, just before the two people and the dog had time to push open the door and use elementalization, the door of this protection center was suddenly opened directly from the outside. Seeing the person appearing in front of them, Ning Yi and Wen Ya were both stunned. Because although the person who appeared at the door was familiar to them, they had only seen it on the internet and TV before. This person is the mayor of Tiandu City, who possesses Xingyao level strength. Yin Ming. Advertisement. Chapter 10. Mayor Ming, who was wearing gold glasses and a suit, looked at the scene in the room, and his eyes suddenly turned cold. He stood at the door and glanced at the corpses on the ground. The group of neon people were all dead at this moment, and there were ice chips and broken ice cubes scattered around. The blood has not yet completely coagulated, and there is a smell of blood in the air. What a bunch of trash. No wonder it takes so long. Ming looked at the corpses on the ground with a trace of disdain in his eyes. Fortunately, I noticed something was wrong and came here in advance. Otherwise, I would really let you run away. He originally thought that after he opened the back door for this group of neon people, the arrest operation would go smoothly. But 5 minutes had passed until the agreed time, and the neon man responsible for carrying out the task had not yet arrived. Ming knew that something happened inside the protection center. Sure enough, when he entered the protection center, he took a look. All those guys were killed, and their deaths were extremely miserable. Looking at the ice slag that has not yet melted all over the ground, Ming moved his eyes directly to Wen Ya, with a hint of appreciation in his eyes. He sneered, walked slowly into the room, glanced across Wen Ya's face, and then spoke slowly. I didn't expect that an SSS-level gifted person would be able to show such great strength just after awakening. Both platinum and gold level guys are no match for you. I really underestimated you. Wen Ya's body lying on the ground. Although she wanted to say that she did not kill these people, but after looking at Ning Yi, she didn't say anything. However, no matter how good your talent is, it ends here. Wen Ya was slightly startled. She hadn't yet realized what Ming's words meant. Then she saw a bony finger gently tapping her forehead. At that moment, Wen Ya only felt a cold force coming from Ming's fingertips and going deep into her body. The next moment, Wen Ya only felt a violent dizziness, as if a terrifying and cold force had eroded into the depths of her mind. As a bone mark was generated on Wen Ya's head, a proud smile suddenly appeared at the corner of Ming's mouth. His deep voice sounded in Wen Ya's ears. You have been marked by my S-level talent, the power of necromancy. No matter where you are, I can sense your every move. Even if I want to, I can destroy your brain and take your life at any time. Wen Ya's face instantly turned pale, and a strong fear arose in her heart. Just when she was extremely scared, Ning Yi's strong and powerful hand suddenly pressed on her shoulder. It seemed to tell her not to be too afraid. Although Wen Ya didn't quite understand it, Ning Yi knew it very well. If Ming's undead power wants to kill someone, it must act on the body's organs. But elementalization turns the whole person into the most basic element. During this process, everything on the body except this element will be automatically removed. Wen Ya has now mastered the ability to elementalize. Naturally, there is no need to be afraid of the special mark placed on her by Ming. Under Ning Yi's comfort, Wen Ya gradually calmed down. After comforting Wen Ya, Ning Yi looked at Ming coldly, without any emotion in his tone. As the mayor of Tiandu City, you actually cooperated with the neon people. This is an act of treason. Advertisement. I'm curious. What kind of interest can make you make such a decision? After hearing this, Ming felt surprised at first, but soon he burst into a contemptuous laugh. It seems that the question asked by Ning Yi is extremely ridiculous. He stopped and turned to face Ning Yi, with a hint of contempt in his eyes. Treason, he sneered. It's treason if no one knows about it. If no one knows, I will still be the mayor of Tiandu City. At most, I will be removed from the job because of my disadvantage in protecting SSS-level talents. As for the things that can impress me, they are naturally the things that can make me enter the realm of a master or even a king. Having said this, Ming raised his skinny hand and looked at his watch again. Then he turned to look at Ning Yi, Wen Ya, and the others. It's almost time. It's time to start outside. If you should go on the road, go on the road, and if you should follow me, follow me. Stop resisting fearlessly. There was a hint of cruelty in Ming's eyes. Don't wait for Ning Yi to react. The next moment, he then activated his undead power. He stretched out his hand and pointed forward, and a cold and terrifying breath suddenly filled the air. A gray-white bone spur suddenly appeared in front of Ning Yi out of thin air. The tip of the bone spur is filled with a permeating death aura. Die. Strive to have a good pregnancy in the next life. The corners of Ming's mouth raised, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Without any hesitation, he stabbed the bone spur directly into Ning Yi's chest. The bone spur was extremely fast, approaching Ning Yi's heart almost instantly, as if it could penetrate everything. However, Ning Yi had already been prepared. Almost the moment the bone spurs came into contact with his body, He immediately started elementalization. The body instantly turned into a tiny ice crystal and floated quickly, avoiding the fatal blow. The bone spur instantly pierced the air and hit the wall hard, making a crisp sound. What is going on? Where's the kid? Ming stared sharply at the place where Ning Yi disappeared, feeling shocked in his heart, especially when he saw an ice crystal suddenly appearing where Ning Yi disappeared. He only felt a roar in his head instantly. Yuan, the ability to elementalize? How is this possible? Ming never thought that the young man in front of him, who had just graduated from high school, could actually use elemental abilities. He knows it very well. The ability to elementalize is a power that only those with king-level elemental talents can master. But now, Ning Yi in front of him actually used this ability. What made Ming feel even more unbelievable? According to the information he had previously obtained, Ning Yi next to Wen Ya obviously does not have any talent. But now how can Ning Yi suddenly use the elementalization ability of the ice system? For a moment, Ming's mood became extremely complicated. He could hardly believe what his eyes were seeing. A strong intuition told him that this young man named Ning Yi seemed to be hiding some huge secret. In fact, the secrets he possesses are even more valuable than Wen Ya, an SSS-level talent. Thinking of this, Ming showed a sneer on his lips. I didn't expect to make a lot of money today. Advertisement: if I package you all together and sell them to Mr. MacArthur, the Emperor of Neon, you might be able to get something better. After saying that, he set his eyes on Wen Ya. So what if you can elementalize? I don't believe you can give up Wen Ya and run away on your own. I saw Ming's hands suddenly filled with the power of death. This undead power instantly activated the bone mark on Wen Ya's head. The next moment, Wen Ya only felt a sharp pain in her head. Boy, if you don't behave and come out, I will kill your girlfriend. However, just as he said these words, Ning Yi's voice also sounded at this moment. Wen Ya, Hua, elementalization. He can't do anything to us. Hearing Ning Yi's voice, Wen Ya and Hua had almost no hesitation, subconsciously using his elementalization ability. In Ming's shocked eyes, I saw that the man and the dog in front of me turned into a piece of ice crystal and a flame at almost the same time, and disappeared before my eyes. Ming looked at everything that happened in front of him and simply couldn't understand what he saw. There was a bang in his head, almost exploding. What the hell is going on? It's okay if Ning Yi can become an elemental person, but how can Wen Ya and that pet dog also be able to become an elemental person? The situation before him was simply unbelievable, completely beyond all his expectations. What kind of ability is this? Ming couldn't help but roar in a low voice, his face full of shock, confusion, and anger intertwined in his eyes. Why can two high school students and a dog become elemental? Is elementalization already so cheap now? What shocked Ming even more? After Wen Ya successfully elementalized, the power of death that he left in her mind also fell away. Now he is no longer where Wen Ya is. Hole. How is it possible? How is it possible? Ming's voice was filled with anger. Now he can only watch Ning Yi and the others turn into a wisp of elemental power and walk out of the door before his eyes. Do you think I can't do anything to you if you become an element? Hell's cage. Ming let out an unwilling roar. Then, the undead power in his body exploded instantly. Waves of necromantic power carrying the cold breath of death began to center on him and spread out in all directions. Not long after, the entire protection center was wrapped inside. Now Ming has no way out. If Wen Ya cannot be caught and the deal terms with Emperor MacArthur cannot be reached, Neon will not take him in. What's more, the news that an SSS-level gifted person has appeared in Tian High City has spread to Tiandu. It won't be long before the group of powerful old professors from Tiandu University will come to compete for this apprentice with SSS-level talents. Even if he had star-level strength, he wouldn't be enough when he met those old monsters. After all, those who can stay at Tiandu University as professors must at least be at the level of kings. If he fails to escape by then, he will only die. Therefore, even if Ming tries his best, he can't let Wen Ya and the others escape. You can't escape. Even if I can't catch anyone alive, I will at least take your corpses to Neon. Chapter 11. Ming took a deep breath, and the power of death in his body surged like a tide. He waved his hand gently, and the entire protection center began to be enveloped by a black-purple necromantic power. Within just a moment, the air around the protection center seemed to be completely eroded by an evil force. Black-purple energy fluctuations spread rapidly, gradually surrounding the entire protection center airtightly. Viewed from a distance, the entire protection center seemed to be swallowed up by thick black fog. All the life and warmth were suppressed in it, and the cold and terrifying death air filled the air. This scene can easily remind people of the terrible hell. When Zhang Wo, who was nervously dealing with the problem of the invasion of vicious beasts, suddenly felt a strong sense of oppression. He turned his head suddenly and looked in the direction of Tianhai City Center. The black and purple aura of the dead spread out like a miasma and enveloped the sky above the protection center. Seeing this scene, Wen Ya was shocked, and the blood in his body seemed to have solidified, and he suddenly felt great uneasiness in his heart. The power of the dead? Why does such a huge power of death appear in the protection center? Didn't the mayor just say that he would go to the protection center to take a look in person? Wait, the power of the dead? An idea suddenly flashed in Wen Jiangwo's mind. If this undead power comes from the mayor, as soon as the thought occurred, he immediately remembered that he was doing well in the protection center, but was suddenly transferred out to participate in resisting the invasion of vicious beasts. He didn't think much about it at the time, but looking back now, Wen Jiangwo's feeling of uneasiness became even stronger. Could it be that the mayor is also eyeing Wen Ya's SSS-level talent? Wen Jiangwo quickly thought about all his contacts with Yin Ming. Suddenly, his heart sank suddenly. Wen Ya may be in danger. Wen Jiangwo felt anxious. Without thinking, he immediately summoned the members of his team. Prepare to turn around and rush back to the protection center to check Wen Ya's condition. However, just when Wen Jiangwo was about to take the members of the defense team back, the situation was stable just now, but unexpected changes suddenly occurred. In the sea outside Tianhai City, the ferocious beasts that were beaten back into the sea actually rioted at this time. They braved the artillery fire from the city wall and attacked the wall of Tianhai City without fear of death. At this time, the eyes of these ferocious beasts were flashing with bloodthirsty red light, showing no fear of any threats. This has never happened before. Seeing this scene, Wen Jiangwo instantly felt his heartbeat begin to accelerate. He knew that the threat from the ferocious beasts was far greater than they had previously imagined. Now not only can he not withdraw, he must also hold on until reinforcements arrive. Otherwise, if the city wall is breached, the ferocious beasts will enter the city. By then, the entire city may be trampled by ferocious beasts. Everyone in Tianhai City may become food in the mouths of vicious beasts. ****. Why is it at this time? Advertisement. The sudden uprising of the ferocious beasts in front of him caused Wen Jiangwo, who was about to retreat, to stop abruptly. He could only glance worriedly in the direction of the protection center. Then he picked up the weapon in his hand again and called on his men to shoot at the ferocious beast outside the wall. Intensify the firepower immediately and let the damn reinforcements go faster. We must stop the beast's attack and ensure the integrity of the defense line. We must not let the ferocious beast break through the defense line. Wen Jiangwo's voice was calm and decisive, but his heart was full of anxiety. He is now very worried about Wen Ya's safety. But now, if I don't lead the team and stay here, I will go all out to resist the attack of these ferocious beasts. I am afraid that the entire Tianhai City will be in danger. From the depths of the sea outside Tianhai City, the roars of ferocious beasts kept coming, shaking the entire city. This made him start to worry. Could it be that the disaster 15 years ago will happen again? Just when Wen Jiangwo led the team with all his strength to resist the invasion of the vicious beasts, Tianhai City's protection center suddenly made a deafening roar. Immediately afterwards, the ground began to shake violently. Looking from a distance, I saw 4 huge black-purple energy fluctuations gradually spreading towards the surroundings. As the black and purple energy fluctuations gradually disappeared, 4 huge corrupt giants slowly rose from the ground, like messengers of death descending on the world. The height of these skeletons is far beyond ordinary people's imagination. Each one is hundreds of meters high. Every skeleton exudes a chilling chill. Their empty eye sockets glowed with cold light. The huge skeleton, supported by the power of the undead, silently lifted the entire protection center high and carried it on its shoulders. Then, what is that? Why do such undead giants appear below the protection center? It's terrible. What happened to Tianhai City today? There are ferocious beasts invading outside, and there are also terrifying undead giants inside. Is the tragedy like when Tianhai City was attacked 15 years ago about to happen again? For a moment, the entire Tianhai City was in panic. Many residents have even made plans to flee. Boom! There was a sound of shaking. Ning Yi and the others in the protection center also felt violent vibrations. As they were about to escape to the exit, they were blocked by a tyrannical force of death. At this moment, Yin Ming has completed the blockade of the entire protection center. Even Ning Yi and the others, who have become elemental, cannot escape surrounded by their own undead power. It's still too late. Ning Yi shook his head helplessly. What should we do? It's already difficult for us to maintain our elementalization. Advertisement not long after they finished speaking. Wen Ya and Hua could no longer maintain their elemental form and return to their original forms. Seeing this, Ning Yi had no choice but to reappear and stand beside Wen Ya and Hua. What do we do next? Wen Ya said anxiously. Ning Yi spread his hands and said that he had no good way to escape now. In desperation, Ning Yi had no choice but to shout loudly on the spot. Mayor Yin, we lost. How about we talk about it? What do you think? After hearing Ning Yi's words, Yin Ming, whose whole body was wrapped in the air of the dead, appeared around them. At this moment, Yin Ming's eyes showed a hint of ridicule, as if he was saying something. Run? You guys keep running? Aren't you good at running? However, it seems to be to maintain the strong posture. Yin Ming did not reveal what he was thinking. He just glanced at Ning Yi and the others coldly and did not respond to Ning Yi, not even taking action against them. Take another good look at Tiandu City. You may not be able to come back in the future. After leaving such a sentence, Yin Ming's figure disappeared again. The next moment, he appeared at the top of the entire protection center, looking far away at the outside of Tiandu City. Next, as long as you can leave the city, take the protection center to the sea. This transaction is considered complete. Just when Yin Ming was controlling the undead giant to move outside the city, suddenly an icy blue figure flew from the distant horizon. On his feet was a long sword that looked like ice. The blade was wide and transparent, like ice crystals under the moonlight, flashing with bursts of cold light in the air. Where the long sword struck, even the air was frozen into ice and fell downwards. The figure of the woman stepping on the sword drew icy blue arcs in the air, and her icy blue hair continued to fly in the wind. His whole body was covered with a layer of icy blue ice armor, and his eyes flashed with a chill from time to time, revealing a hint of fierceness. If you are someone who often pays attention to online news, you will definitely recognize her the first time you see her. This person is one of the most promising superpowers in the entire Dragon Kingdom to enter the Imperial Realm. The Ice Phoenix possesses SS-level talents of both ice and sword. Qin Lan. At this moment, Qin Lan looked at Tiandu City below with a smile on his face. Oh, Haiqing is really lively today. I don't know where my good disciple Wen Ya is now. I hope no blind guy messes with her. If there were, that would be even better. Chapter 12. Qin Lan stood on the city wall of Tiandu City, his eyes as cold as ice. She stared down at the distant tide of ferocious beasts emerging from the depths of the everlasting sea. Those huge figures and harsh roars seemed to announce the coming destruction of a city. However, faced with a huge tide of vicious beasts, the expression on Qin Lan's face did not change at all. The frosty face is like ice that has never melted for thousands of years, and there is majesty in the calmness. She whispered to herself softly, her voice cold but with a hint of dominance that ordinary women don't have. Today is the day that I, Qin Lan, come to Tiandu City to accept my disciples. Since you don't give me face so much, then let me borrow your lives to let my good disciple see the strength of her master. The words fell. The ice sword under Qin Lan's feet trembled slightly, as if it sensed her will. Be honest with me. Be patient and wait for me to take your lives. With a soft drink from her, the high heels on her feet stepped down sharply. Just listen to a low sound of buzz. Qin Lan's body instantly burst out with a powerful momentum, which was the pressure of the king's realm, and the world trembled. The cold and terrifying power swept across like a tide, instantly covering the entire battlefield. At this moment, all the ferocious beasts instinctively felt fear. They were originally stimulated by something unknown. Their eyes were blood red, and they were furious. At this time, it was like a collective sedative was taken. The blood redness in the eyes gradually faded away, replaced by deep fear. They were trembling all over, and even their originally violent roars became low and trembling at this moment, and they did not dare to move another step. Everyone has come, please stay. This much meat is enough to feed this third-tier town for a year. Qin Lan's words were filled with cold, murderous intent and without a trace of emotion. She has sentenced these ferocious beasts to death. Maybe he sensed murderous intent coming from the air. The ferocious beasts all raised their heads at this moment and stared at Qin Lan above them. Qin Lan gently raised her hand, and the ice sword under her feet suddenly turned into an icy blue light and flew into her hand. The sword made a crisp buzz in the cold wind, as if responding to her will. As she poured her powerful king-level power into this long sword, the next moment, the temperature of the entire world suddenly dropped, and a bone-chilling chill enveloped the entire area within 100 miles. The surrounding air seemed to have solidified, and only the biting cold wind was howling between heaven and earth. Can't hear any other sounds. Those ferocious beasts below, especially the guys who were swept by Qin Lan's gaze, all stopped involuntarily at this moment. They felt the approach of death. Some ferocious beasts that could withstand the terrifying pressure had already begun to flee crazily. Most of them were so frightened that their limbs became stiff, and they even lost the strength to escape. Some are even so scared that they urinate and are extremely embarrassed. But no matter what the reaction of these ferocious beasts is at this moment, Qin Lan didn't even give them any chance to survive. Her eyes turned cold and she whispered a few words. Ice sword domain. As her words fell, countless ice-blue sword shadows suddenly appeared in the sky. These sword shadows seemed to grow out of the void, each handle exuding a biting cold air. The sword shadows were densely packed, covering the sky and the sun, shrouding the entire battlefield under a rain of ice swords. All the ice swords in the sky, each ice-blue sword shadow, were accurately locked on a ferocious beast. They are like death's scythes that have been raised high, pointing the sharpest part at their target. Now we are just waiting for Qin Lan to give the order, and we are ready to start the final harvest. Advertisement die. Qin Lan gently waved the ice sword in his hand, his movements elegant and sharp. The next moment, the icy sword shadows all over the sky fell like raindrops, instantly piercing the wave of ferocious beasts below. Boom! The ice-blue sword shadow covered the entire ocean, making a deafening roar. Whether they were those who had escaped or the ferocious beasts that were frozen in place and did not dare to move, they were all pierced by the ice sword at this moment. The power of ice spread rapidly along the tip of the sword, freezing the bodies of the ferocious beasts instantly. Each ferocious beast turned into a lifelike ice sculpture, frozen in their final struggling movements. Not a drop of blood flowed out of these ice sculptures. The power of ice completely froze the life in their bodies, leaving them no room to struggle. The ice sculptures shine with crystal light in the sunlight, as if they are exquisite and cold works of art, exuding the tranquility and cold beauty of death. Qin Lan's figure hovered quietly in mid-air. Her long, icy blue hair flutters in the wind, like an ice and snow queen descending into the world. She glanced coldly below, and saw that the bodies of the ferocious beasts and the sea were covered in ice. Seeing that the crisis outside Tianhai City has been resolved, Qin Lan stretched out his hand and flicked the ice sword lightly. The next moment, this ice sword that killed 100,000 ferocious beasts with one strike turned into fine ice shards and dissipated in the air. Just freeze here for a few days, so that my good disciple can take a good look at Master's masterpiece. It was obvious that Qin Lan was very satisfied with his move this time, but she didn't have time to be happy yet. A voice that made her extremely annoying sounded behind her. I didn't expect that after not seeing each other for several years, Sister Lan still likes to have these big scenes as before. This gift is quite important. I would like to thank my sister for my little apprentice first. As this voice fell, I saw a young man with red hair, stepping on a fire cloud, looking at Qin Lan with a playful smile. Seeing the visitor, Qin Lan couldn't help but show a hint of anger on his face. Zhu Qi, we are recruiting disciples from the ice system. What are you doing here? You Firebase B******************** D? Get out of here before I get angry. Otherwise, I'll let you experience the power of the ice sword again. Zhu Qi seemed to have become accustomed to Qin Lan's threat. Sister Lan, you are a bit too domineering. We are all from the elemental system, not to mention that our fire system knows your ice system no less than you do. Maybe when you can teach her even better if she lets us teach her. As soon as Zhu Qi finished speaking, several more voices sounded behind the two of them. Xiao Zhu Qi is right. Little girl Wen Ya has SSS-level talents and abilities. She will definitely be a genius who will advance to the realm of the great emperor in the future. We can't let her just waste time in your ice department. The mentors of other elemental departments can also give some advice. As for the department that little girl Wen Ya is willing to go to after entering Tiandu, it depends on the girl's own choice. What Mr. Jean said is right. We at Mu Academy support it. I also express my support on behalf of Feng Academy. I also support our power department. Go away. Why is it your turn to complain about the internal affairs of our element system? You're right. Except for our big family of elements. If any of you old guys dare to say anything, I'll chop you to death. Watching more and more old professors from Tiandu University gathering in the sky, Qin Lan's face was so gloomy that there was a layer of frost. She knew very well that these old men were so thick-skinned that even if she held an ice sword, she wouldn't be able to cut through them. Snort. Advertisement: if you old guys really dare to rob my apprentice, when I get back, I will block the entrance of your academy one by one with ice swords. Not even if the principal comes. He left a cruel message. Qin Lan ignored these shameless old men. He fell straight from the sky and came to Wen Jiangwo. When Jiangwo looked at the woman in front of him, who had just killed 100,000 ferocious beasts with one sword, and did not dare to show any slights, he immediately saluted Qin Lan with a standard military salute. Hello, sir. Who knows what surprises Wen Jiangwo? Although the woman in front of her looks as cold as ice and should not be approached by strangers, but when she opened her mouth, her previous coldness was gone. Hello, are you Wen Jiangwo, the parent of Wen Ya? I am Qin Lan, a tutor from the Ice Academy of the Department of Elements of Tiandu University. Nice to meet you. I'm here to recruit Wen Ya to enter our Tiandu University. Hearing Qin Lan's words, Wen Jiangwo was stunned. Qin Lan? Is this Qin Lan, who is known online as the Master of Ice and Sword, and who is most likely to become the next emperor in the Dragon Kingdom? She comes to recruit Wen Ya to enroll? Wen Jiangwo felt that his brain was not full for a while, and he even forgot to say anything. At this moment, his mind was filled with the name Qin Lan had just reported. Just when Wen Jiangwo's brain shut down, several more voices came. Hello, I am Zhu Qi, a professor at the Fire Academy of Tiandu University. My nickname is Little Fire God. I am often on popular websites. Hello, I am Jinzheng. I have killed dragons in the realm of kings before, and I have also been on the hot list. Hello. Listening to the names that I have only heard on TV and the internet, Wen Jiangwo only felt that the scene in front of him was a little unreal. You must know this group of people in front of you. If you pick anyone out at random, they will all be famous big shots. But now, they all gathered around him. They all said hello to him, the captain of the Tianhai City defense team. This caused him to suffer from huge self-doubt for a while. What's wrong with the world? Why are these big guys who only appear on TV networks now standing in front of me and saying hello to me? Looking at Wen Jiangwo, who was confused for a while, Qin Lan was also a little helpless. She had no choice but to turn her head and look at comrade Xiaowang behind Wen Jiangwo and asked him about Wen Ya's current whereabouts. Hello, do you know where Wen Ya is now? Seeing Qin Lan turning around and asking himself, Xiaowang couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. But it was obvious that he was much less stimulated than Wen Jiangwo. Xiaowang stretched out his hand and pointed at the protection center in the distance that was being carried by 4 huge undead giants, and couldn't help but say, I remember Brother Wen said that her daughter has entered the protection center and is being protected by the mayor. But for some reason, at the height of the ferocious beast riot, Mayor Yin suddenly summoned 4 undead giants and began to move the protection center out of the city. He should be protecting Xiaoya and the others. He just finished speaking. I saw dozens of murderous eyes staring at him. This honest kid, Xiaowang, was so frightened that he didn't dare to say another word for a while. At this moment, Wen Jiangwo, who finally remembered that Wen Ya was in danger, suddenly spoke loudly. Yaya is in the protection center. She might be in danger. Chapter 13. The phrase gentleness can be dangerous. This group of old professors from Tiandu University instantly exploded. These old professors who seemed amiable just now are now full of murderous intent, as if they were different people. However, although they all showed murderous intent, but their hearts were almost bursting with joy. This group of old professors, who are smarter than monkeys with hair on their backs, know this very well. When Wen Ya is in danger, this is an excellent opportunity to steal her apprentice. They all know who will be the first to appear in front of Wen Ya at this critical moment. Then Wen Ya will definitely be grateful to herself. The possibility of becoming a disciple of yours will be greatly increased. However, none of these veterans showed their anger, and they all looked filled with indignation. Qinlan and Zhu Qi were the youngest and had the fastest reactions. Almost as soon as the words "Wen Ya is endangered" fell, they turned into two streams of light and flew out from the place, heading straight for the Tianhai City Protection Center. The other professors were stunned for a moment, and then their faces immediately turned ugly. Oops, why is your reaction so late? Damn it, young people have quick legs and feet. Don't be stunned. Hurry up and catch up. If you are one step too late, you won't even be able to drink the soup. Several old professors immediately jumped into the air and followed closely behind Qinlan and Zhu Qi. Although they are older, their enthusiasm for stealing apprentices is not inferior to that of young people. At the same time, in Tianhai City's protection center, 4 huge undead giants, still controlled by Yin Ming, were slowly moving outside the city. These undead giants are like evil ghosts in hell, exuding a thick black-purple death aura, making the ground tremble with every step they take. However, moving the entire protection center is not a simple matter. After all, this is a solid fortress that can withstand the attacks of king-level masters for a period of time, and its weight is unimaginable. Even if Yin Ming is controlling these undead giants to move the protection center at the moment, he feels extremely strenuous for a while. Faster! Faster! Yin Ming gritted his teeth, cold sweat broke out on his forehead, and muttered in a low voice. We can break out of the city in 10 minutes. Emperor MacArthur and the Beast King will arrive soon to help. Everything is almost successful. He devoted himself entirely to controlling the 4 undead giants and had no time to care about anything else. He didn't even know that all the hundreds of thousands of ferocious beasts outside the city were frozen into ice sculptures. However, just when he was so tired that he was sweating profusely, 2 powerful auras suddenly appeared in front of him. Yin Ming felt these 2 pressures and felt a sudden joy in his heart, thinking that his response had finally come. He raised his head and shouted excitedly, Emperor MacArthur, Lord Beastmaster, you are finally here. Wen Ya, I'm ready. Right here in the protection center. They don't know why they turned into elements. You have to be careful and don't let them turn into elements and run away. Yin Ming raised his tired and sweaty head while claiming credit. However, when his eyes finally fell on the visitor, his smile froze instantly. Standing in front of him was Emperor MacArthur and the Beast King of the Neon Kingdom. But Qinlan and Zhu Qi, 2 Dragon King realm experts who often appear on hot searches on the internet. At this moment, the 2 of them were staring at him as if they were looking at a fool, and their cold eyes seemed to be laughing at his stupidity. The corners of Qinlan's mouth raised slightly, revealing a sneer. Oh, Wen Ya is in here. Mayrin, it seems that you are quite serious about your work. Qinlan touched the ice sword in his hand, his tone full of chill. Zhu Qi also took out a burning trident from the flames, shook his head and sighed. It's so enthusiastic. It's a pity that this enthusiasm is actually for the enemy. Advertisement. I didn't expect that this time when I came out to recruit disciples, I actually caught a traitor. What an unexpected bonus. After the 2 of them spoke one after another, Yin Ming's face turned pale instantly. However, this is not the scariest thing. What Yin Ming didn't expect was, there are more and more powerful professors who only exist on the hot search list. At this moment, they appeared in front of me one by one. Until this group of professors from Tiandu University stood in a long queue behind Qinlan and Zhu Qi. Yin Mingkai finally realized how big of a mistake he had made today. Misunderstanding. This is actually, Yin Ming tried to argue, but halfway through his words, he got stuck in his throat, because his tongue and throat were all frozen together by Qinlan's ice power at this moment. Qinlan waved his ice sword gently, and a bone-chilling chill instantly swept through the surroundings. Mayrin, if you keep talking nonsense, I'm afraid you won't even have a chance to explain. Her voice was as cold as 1,000-year-old ice, making it difficult for Yin Ming to breathe. Zhu Qi smiled jokingly, and the flames on the trident in his hand burned brighter and brighter. Tisk, tisk, Mayrin, don't even think about explaining it. It's better to think carefully about how to explain your crime next. Yin Ming stood on the top of the protection center, his face full of ferocity and despair. He knew that his identity as a traitor had been exposed. After being caught by this group of strong men, what awaits him will never be a simple punishment, but endless torture. He knew that the Dragon Kingdom had never shown mercy to traitors. There was no room for change in the situation before him, and his outcome was already doomed. As a result, Yin Ming couldn't help but have a crazy thought in his heart. Anyway, it was a dead end, so he decided to break the pot and throw it away. Since you can't get it, no one can get it. Even you, a group of strong men in the realm of kings, can't do it. Ming took a deep breath and gathered all the power of death in his body. I saw lines of strong black and purple aura gradually condensing into a ferocious skeleton. A low and hoarse voice came from the skull's mouth. Everyone, if you don't want Wen Ya to die here, then let me go immediately. As long as I can reach Neon, I will return Wen Ya to you. There was a hint of madness in Ming's voice. Wen Ya is in the protection center. She is the only genius in our dragon kingdom who has awakened SSS-level talents in recent years. If she dies, I'm afraid none of you can bear this responsibility, right? If you don't let me go, I will drag her into the abyss of death and let them be buried with me. Ming's threatening words echoed in the field. Everyone could hear that he wanted to use Wen Ya to buy himself a chance to escape. However, the people present now are 20 or 30 strong men in the realm of kings. In the eyes of these kings, his threat is nothing more than a last-ditch effort to resist. However, what no one expected was, Ming's threatening words had just come to fruition. An almost crazy smile suddenly appeared on the corner of his mouth. I saw that his skinny body hidden under his suit was swelling crazily at this moment. The power of death in the body also expanded thousands of times at this moment. He suddenly opened his arms and began to absorb the energy of the protection center. These energies have been accumulated by the protection center for many years and are enough to resist attacks from powerful men in the realm of kings. Advertisement, however, at this moment, all this energy was sucked into Ming's body. Although his body must not be able to withstand such powerful energy, but he still did it without hesitation. At this moment, his body was close to being stretched to the edge, but he still endured it forcefully. The kings who felt something bad suddenly looked stern, immediately used their own methods to attack Ming. However, what was greeted at this moment was a burst of ridicule from Ming. Ha ha ha, you arrogant guys have been fooled. From the moment I met you, I had no intention of living anymore. If you want to be gentle, go find it in the abyss of the dead. Ming laughed wildly, his face becoming distorted and deformed due to the intense energy infusion. But the crazy light in his eyes never stops. His strength surged to the level of a king in just a few seconds. A powerful undead aura suddenly enveloped the entire place. TSK. My goal in this life is to enter the realm of kings and take a look at the scenery of the realm of kings. But I didn't expect that I would enter the realm of kings in this way. If you hear the Tao in the morning, you will die in the evening. Everyone, I will take the first step. The abyss of the dead is waiting for you. Ming suppressed the pain in his body and roared. His figure was wrapped in strong undead power, and he looked like a demon in hell. He raised his head and showed a cruel smile to everyone. Then he suddenly waved his arms and used his king-level undead power to resist the attacks from these professors. He used his last strength to protect the bottom of the center and opened a dark and deep crack. Everyone, see you in the abyss. Ming laughed painfully, his eyes full of madness. The next moment, the ground began to shake violently. A biting chill and a smell of decay came from the cracks, and countless tentacles of the abyss were slowly spreading towards the protection center. Ming used all his strength to push the entire protection center into the depths of the crack. At this moment, his body could no longer withstand the dual pressure from both inside and outside, and began to gradually collapse. But the smile on his face looked even crazier at this moment. Stop him! Qin Lan roared angrily, swung out the ice sword, and the terrifying power of the king's realm rushed towards Ming. However, Ming had already fallen into madness and ignored all attacks. He looked at everyone with a sneer, and his body gradually collapsed under the impact of energy, turning into wisps of black and purple aura and blending into the abyss of death. At the last moment when he was about to disappear, he took the entire protection center and fell into the abyss of death. The crack leading to the undead abyss is preparing to close after swallowing everything in the protection center. However, at this moment, an ice sword and a flame trident hit both sides of the crack at the same time. Extreme ice and extremely hot flames erupted at the same time at this moment, tearing open the cracks in the abyss that were about to be completely closed. It's just an abyss of death. Who are you trying to scare? A guy with no vision. Teachers, we haven't been into the abyss for a long time, right? This time, let's practice with this abyss of death. Zhu Qi's voice sounded on the field, and he looked at the abyss of death at his feet with a hint of eagerness to try. Qin Lan rarely refuted Zhu Qi, but looked at the abyss of death at his feet and said with interest, Zhu Qi is right, but I have another idea. That means when we go down, we should be careful not to kill the little guys here. Try to keep undead monsters with platinum and below strength as much as possible. This undead abyss is big enough and can be used as a college entrance examination venue for tens of millions of candidates this year. Chapter 14. Ning Yi, Wen Ya, and Hua all felt that their bodies were falling rapidly. The surrounding undead power was like a thick layer of fog, completely blocking their sight. No matter what, they couldn't clearly see the outside world, and there was only the whistling of the wind and the echo of the heartbeat in their ears. The feeling of powerlessness of being completely wrapped in the unknown made each of them feel their hearts in their throats. Ning Yi wanted to figure out where he was now, so he shouted into the air again. Ming, where are we now? After the words fell, the surroundings were still dead silent. Just when Ning Yi thought that this D guy would never respond to him again. After a long time, a weak and cold voice echoed in the darkness. Ming's voice was extremely weak, as if he had lost most of his life compared to before. He. You ask me where I am? I tell you. Now, we have fallen into the abyss of death. This sentence exploded like a thunder in the minds of Ning Yi and Wen Ya. The Abyss of the Dead is a name they are not unfamiliar with. It was a forbidden place that was rarely recorded in encyclopedias. The place name Necromantic Abyss symbolizes endless death and darkness. It is said that all creatures that enter the Abyss of the Dead will be turned into puppets of the dead and will never be able to return to the world. There is no light, no hope, only endless desperate bodies and decaying souls. Abyss of the Dead? Wen Ya's face turned pale, and she asked with a hint of disbelief in her voice. Aren't you going to take us to Neon? Why are we here? Don't you want to live too? She never expected that Ming would be so crazy. He actually led them into this hellish place. Ming chuckled, his weak voice filled with sarcasm and resentment. Blame me? Haha. If you want to blame, just blame those old guys from Tiandu University. If they hadn't caused trouble and ruined my plan, I would have arrived at Neon safely with you two geniuses. Ming's voice was weaker than before, and it seemed that even speaking had become a problem. But he seemed to want to vent at the moment and continued to explain to Ning Yi and Wen Ya. Yes, my plan should have gone smoothly. I will send you to Neon in exchange for the way to advance to the realm of Master and King. But now, everything is ruined. In order to escape pursuit, I can only sacrifice myself to the undead emperor who I believe in, and let him open the door to the abyss of the undead and save my life. And you are the ones I brought here to help you. I believe that the undead emperor would also be happy to see humanity lose 3 top masters in the future. His voice became more and more shrill, as if he was venting his unwillingness and resentment. Ning Yi was not in the mood to listen to him vent at the moment. He had already begun to quickly think of ways to escape in his mind. He could feel that Ming was already very weak, and he had almost exhausted all his strength. Ning Yi judged that Ming's undead power entangled around the protection center should not exist for long. As long as his undead power dissipates, he and Wen Ya will have hope of escaping. Ning Yi took a deep breath and tried to keep his thoughts clear. He looked at the shining fruit that had not yet been removed from the system. And this fruit is his final trump card. As long as he eats the shining fruit, he will gain the power of light. Ning Yi believes that the speed of light is enough to rush out of the abyss with Wen Ya and Hua in an instant. But the premise of all this is that the door to the undead abyss has not been closed. Advertisement otherwise, even if he had the speed of light, he would not be able to open the door to the outside world. Of course, this is the final trump card. As long as there are other ways, Ning Yi will not eat this sparkling fruit by himself. After eating the sparkling fruit, although he could have the speed of light, it was a waste of an opportunity to gain 10 times the power of the sparkling fruit. What's more, he still doesn't know whether the seawater in this world contains special factors that can restrain those with devil fruit abilities. In this crisis-ridden world, he doesn't want to leave any flaws in himself, not even just being a landlubber. Damn, Ning Yi frowned, struggling in his heart. It's not the last moment yet. If you persist a little longer, maybe you can still be saved. At this moment, a terrifying pressure suddenly came. This coercion is like a huge mountain pressing down on my heart, and even the entire space is distorted by this force, which is suffocating. The intensity of this pressure far exceeds any force Ning Yi has ever felt before. What is this? Wen Ya's face turned pale, and her voice trembled. Hua even moaned softly, and the flames all over his body kept flickering. Suddenly, a low and cold voice echoed around, as if coming from the deepest part of the abyss, carrying an endless aura of oppression and death, directly piercing everyone's ears. "Aunt, was it you who sacrificed yourself to beg me to open the abyss of the dead?" The sound was like substance, as if it hit everyone's heart with a heavy hammer, making them almost breathless. Ning Yi's heart was shocked. He stopped almost instinctively and looked up in the direction of the sound. When Yin Ming heard the sound, a flash of enthusiasm and excitement suddenly flashed in his eyes. Like a prisoner who is about to go to the shooting range and sees his last glimmer of hope, he forced himself to hold on to his extremely weak soul state and shouted quickly, "Emperor of the Dead, it's me. I am your most loyal servant. I am willing to sacrifice everything I have for you." At this point, Yin Ming suddenly changed the topic and spoke in an almost pleading voice. "But I am almost unable to maintain my final soul state. Please save my life. I am willing to dedicate everything I have to you in the deepest part of the abyss of death." His voice was full of supplication and humility, even a bit crying. At the same time, his soul was constantly trembling. But that desire for life and obsession with power made him desperately offer everything he had to the undead emperor. As soon as Yin Ming finished speaking, the black and purple necromantic power that enveloped the protection center suddenly began to dissipate rapidly. The power of the dead around the protection center quickly disappeared, and Ning Yi was finally able to see the surrounding environment clearly. "What a great opportunity. Why don't you eat the sparkling fruit and run away?" Ning Yi hesitated for a moment and then made a decisive move. "Just waste it. It's better than losing your life. As long as you are alive, maybe there will be a solution." However, just when Ning Yi was about to take out the shining fruit and eat it in one bite, but a strange feeling suddenly arose in his heart. He suddenly saw a glimpse of the future. "Is this seeing and hearing hockey predicting the future?" Ning Yi murmured in his heart. At this moment, he tried his best to stay calm and began to take this opportunity to explore the future. After a moment, a smile appeared on his face. Because he has already seen the scene when he and Wen Ya successfully escaped from the abyss of the dead. Almost instantly, the ability to predict the future ended. However, Ning Yi also slowly raised his head at this moment and no longer looked at the shining fruit. Instead, he looked at the door of the protection center with a normal expression. Advertisement. He looked beyond the door in front of him and looked into the deepest part of the abyss. Only a huge and suffocating figure came into his mind. In the deepest part of the undead abyss, there is a disgusting monster. It looks more like a big mountain of carrion. This mountain of meat was extremely huge, with its surface covered with thick carrion and black-purple pus. Countless squirming pieces of flesh struggled like living creatures, making creepy grunting sounds. On the mountain of carrion, there are more than 10 ferocious heads distributed, but these heads are constantly oozing black blood. The blood flows down the surface of the mountain, exuding a strong fishy smell. And behind the meat mountain, Ning Yi saw 6 pairs of huge and dark wings. However, one of the wings has been completely broken, with rotten muscles turning out from the wound. A mixture of pus and black blood dripped down, forming a black blood lake on the ground. Ning Yi only glanced at it and felt an indescribable fear rising from the bottom of his heart. He quickly realized that the identity of this behemoth should be the controller of the abyss of death, the undead emperor. Is this the great emperor of the dead? But even if it is as powerful as it has suffered such horrific injuries. What is it that can hurt a being of this level? After thinking about it seriously, Ning Yi couldn't help but feel his scalp numb. However, right now, the undead emperor seemed to have noticed the gaze from Ning Yi. It seems to hate a human ant that dares to look directly at itself like this. This is disrespectful to him. "Ant, die!" The undead emperor angrily yelled. In the next moment, the terrifying power of the undead began to attack Ning Yi from the deepest part of the undead abyss. The moment when the crisis of terror was felt, Ning Yi did not dare to hesitate anymore and immediately used the power of elementalization. However, even though he has become an element, Ning Yi still feels that the power is locked on him and is rushing towards him. However, Ning Yi was not in a hurry at this time. He looked at the terrifying undead power coming toward him with a smile on his face. "It's time to come. The idea just came to me." The next moment, an ice sword 100 feet long and a flame trident of the same size fell from the sky instantly. It hit hard the undead power that surged up from the bottom of the undead abyss. Boom! A terrifying loud noise resounded throughout the abyss of death. The terrifying energy impact of ice and fire successfully withstood the power of the undead emperor. However, this is not the end. After these two terrorist forces broke out, more than 20 different king-level energy bursts surged down from the sky. The fusion of these powers shocked even the undead emperor, who was a powerful emperor. Quickly take action to resist. After another terrifying roar, the strength of both sides was actually tied at this moment. However, at this moment, the undead emperor turned around more than a dozen heads on the mountain of meat. Looking at the soul of Yin Ming, who had just been rescued by it, he let out a terrifying roar. Hole. Traitor, did you lure them here? Chapter 15. The huge carrion body of the undead emperor trembled slightly. A dozen heads opened their blood-red eyes at the same time, staring at the 20 or 30 strong human kings who suddenly appeared on its territory with unconcealable rage in their eyes. The auras of these powerful human beings were powerful and obviously full of hostility, making it feel deeply insulted and provoked. The eyes of the undead emperor slowly turned to Yin Ming, who had just been rescued by it, with murderous intent in his blood-red eyes. Looking at the strong human beings behind him, it quickly came to a conclusion in its mind. Yin Ming must be the bait sent by these humans to lure him into opening the abyss of death. What made him even more angry was that he bited the hook so easily. This instantly raised his anger to the extreme. Yin Ming felt the gaze of the undead emperor and froze in place, not daring to move. He forced an ugly smile on his face, trying his best to hide the fear in his heart. He knew that he had completely angered the undead emperor, but at this moment, he could only bite the bullet and try to resolve the crisis at hand. Emperor, calm down. You misunderstood. This is all a conspiracy of these humans. Yin Ming's voice was trembling. He pointed at the group of human kings and gritted his teeth. It's this group of humans who not only hunt down me, your most loyal servant, but also openly insult your majesty. They are so audacious that they dare to break into the abyss of the dead and ask the emperor to send down divine punishment to wipe out all these ants who don't know the heights of the world. As soon as he finished speaking, Yin Ming looked at the undead emperor expectantly, as if hoping that this explanation could successfully divert its anger. However, his expectations did not come true. After listening to Yin Ming's words, the undead emperor's more than 10 heads showed sarcastic and angry expressions at the same time. A low roar came from its chest, which was like a mountain of meat. Finally, a few deafening words came out from more than a dozen mouths at the same time. You idiot! The sound reverberated throughout the deathly abyss like thunder, causing the entire space to tremble slightly. The smile on Yin Ming's face froze instantly. He opened his mouth wide, but couldn't say a word. He didn't even have time to react before he was severely enveloped by the imperial pressure pouring out of the body of the undead emperor. How dare you lure these humans to my territory and try to use me to deal with them? Advertisement, do you think I'm a fool? The undead emperor roared, his voice filled with undisguised contempt and anger. As it roared, a powerful force of death swept out, directly shattering Yin Ming's soul to pieces. Yin Ming screamed and fell to his knees, struggling in pain. He had never felt such terrifying power. He wanted to run, but as his soul in the hands of the undead emperor, he had no chance of escaping. His life was saved by the undead emperor, and he can take it away at any time. However, at this moment, a cold voice broke the roar of the undead emperor. The great emperor of the dead, this is a traitor to our dragon kingdom. You can't kill him, otherwise it will be a further violation of the agreement back then. This voice came from Qinlan. Her tone was cold, without any fear, as if she didn't take the emperor-level creature in front of her at all. The ice sword in her hand trembled slightly, and traces of frost appeared faintly in the air around her. More than a dozen heads of the undead emperor turned to Qinlan at the same time, their blood-red eyes flashing with rage. Promise? Are you threatening me? Qinlan was not afraid, looked at him, and continued. The appearance of your necromantic abyss in Tianhai City is already a breach of contract. If you dare to continue to attack us now, those who will come later will be the 7 great emperors of our dragon kingdom. As soon as these words were spoken, the surrounding atmosphere suddenly became tense. Back then, the Qinglong emperor of our dragon kingdom could have driven you into this abyss of death, and now, there are already 7 strong men in the realm of the great emperor in our dragon kingdom, and there will be more in the future. When Qinlan was talking to the undead emperor, all the king-level experts secretly clenched their weapons. Although they were wary of the power of the undead emperor, no one flinched at this moment. When the undead emperor heard this, He seemed to hear a memory that he didn't want to recall. Its huge body stagnated slightly, and the expressions on its dozen heads instantly became extremely complicated. Anger, fear, and humiliation were intertwined, making it difficult to vent his emotions. Hole. That guy Mu Chun just took advantage of my serious injury to launch a sneak attack. How dare you threaten me with him? Do you really think I'm afraid of your so-called great emperors? The undead emperor gritted his teeth and roared, his voice filled with uncontrollable anger. Advertisement. Looking at the angry undead emperor, Qin Lan's eyes remained extremely calm. She clenched the long sword in her hand, and the power of ice surged, freezing the deathly aura that filled the air inch by inch. We don't care whether you are afraid or not, but if you want to try to fight with our Dragon Kingdom again, then our Dragon Kingdom is willing to accompany you at any time. When the undead emperor heard this, his huge body shook slightly, and bursts of pain came from the broken wings on his back. At this moment, its anger reached its peak in an instant, but it could not vent it. Its broken wings were shaking violently, as if it was about to explode with terrifying power in the next second. However, it did not take action in the end. It seems that the so-called agreement does have great binding force on it. It knew very well that another war with the Dragon Kingdom would mean complete destruction. His strength is not what it was back then, but the Dragon Kingdom is now at its peak. In the end, it transferred all its anger to Yin Ming. A dozen heads roared at the same time. You idiot! How dare you cause me to be threatened by these ants? I will make your life worse than death. As the words fell, countless rotten hands appeared around Yin Ming, grabbing Yin Ming's soul in their hands. The power of the dead surged crazily, tearing Yin Ming's soul into pieces, then forcibly splicing them back together, and then continued to tear them apart. Yin Ming's screams were so shrill that they seemed to penetrate the entire abyss, making people shudder. Qin Lan looked at this scene with cold eyes, a sneer on his lips, and whispered, "Deserve it." There was no mercy in her tone, only cold sarcasm. She watched quietly as the undead emperor tortured Yin Ming. A moment later, a cold voice came out of Qin Lan's mouth again. The undead emperor. He can stay here so that you can torture him at any time, but we need all the information deep in his soul. In addition, there is one more thing I want to inform you. We, the Dragon Kingdom, have designated your necromantic abyss as this year's college entrance exam venue. Let this be your punishment for violating the agreement this time. I hope you can cooperate with our work and don't make it difficult for us. This will not do any good to either of us. Also, you need to clear out all the undead above the platinum level within the next 2 months. If any undead that exceeds the platinum level attacks our candidates during this period, the abyss of undead will be completely emptied by the Dragon Kingdom. Chapter 16. In the end, under tremendous pressure, the undead emperor had to agree to all the requests of Qin Lan and others. All the memories stored in Yin Ming's broken soul were successfully retrieved by a Tiandu University instructor who was good at studying souls. I am going to take it back and analyze it carefully to see who Yin Ming wants to trade with. Can we continue to dig out more Dragon Kingdom traders along his line? After doing all this, Qin Lan and others used the power of the King's Realm to move the entire protection center back to Tianhai City from the edge of the undead abyss. Although the protection center is safely back in place, but the door to the undead abyss is not completely closed. Instead, they were stabilized by Qin Lan and the others. The necromantic abyss will remain available for the next 2 months. It will serve as a testing ground for all candidates participating in the college entrance examination. In fact, this group of instructors were still very happy after going into the abyss. They didn't expect that this trip to Tianhai City would actually solve their headache of the college entrance examination venue. After all, it is not that simple to find a crack space whose highest level is platinum level. But I didn't expect that this time the abyss of the dead was opened unexpectedly, and the abyss of the dead has developed so well over the years. There are so many undead below platinum level. It is very consistent with the sustainable fishing policy of the Longhua College Entrance Examination Office. It not only suppresses the development of the necromantic abyss, but also provides a good college entrance examination platform. Simply kill 2 birds with 1 stone. When the protection center finally landed on land again and stopped, the door reopened. Wen Ya and Huahua relaxed obviously, especially Huahua, who even wags his tail and spits out a small cluster of flames from his mouth, as if to celebrate that he finally escaped from the abyss. In contrast, Ning Yi's performance seemed particularly calm. He always remained calm, as if what he had just experienced was not a near-fatal crisis. It was an ordinary trip to the abyss of the dead. When the door of the protection center was lightly slashed by Qin Lan with his ice sword, it made a crisp, cracking sound. Everyone at the door turned their eyes to the door that gradually opened. As the light poured into the protection center, the figures of Ning Yi, Wen Ya, and Hua Hua gradually appeared in front of everyone. Outside the door, the professors from Tiandu University who had been waiting for a long time were stunned for a moment. They originally thought that Wen Ya was the only one inside. After all, candidates with SSS-level talents were their focus. But now, I see that besides Wen Ya, there are Ning Yi and Hua Hua. Especially when they saw that boy and Wen Ya standing so close together, they immediately knew that the relationship between Ning Yi and Wen Ya was definitely unusual. Who is this young man? Wen Ya's boyfriend? An old professor murmured in a low voice, his eyes full of scrutiny. It's possible. Look how close they stand. Another professor stroked his beard, thoughtfully. There are even some quick-thinking professors who are already thinking about whether to start with this boyfriend. Maybe he can persuade Wen Ya to study in his college. Advertisement after all, students with SSS-level talents are rare. Being able to take him under his wing, even if you have to pay some price, and even make an exception to give Ning Yi a recommended quota, is a bloody gain. However, when everyone focused their attention on Wen Ya, only Zhu Qi noticed something strange. His eyes fell on Hua Hua calmly. The flame lines lingering on the body of the border shepherd faintly revealed unusual fluctuations. Zhu Qi, who was extremely sensitive to flames, suddenly discovered that the dog Wen Ya was holding didn't seem simple at all. Zhu Qi narrowed his eyes slightly and thought to himself, this dog is no ordinary pet. Especially those flame patterns on the body. Just looking at those flame patterns, it seems that a flame is burning. However, he did not reveal his findings. Instead, he decided to wait until everyone had dispersed before going to find out. At this time, Ning Yi obviously noticed the complicated looks cast by these professors on him. He couldn't help feeling embarrassed, so he nodded to them and forced a smile. Hello, professors. I leave it to you to take care of Wen Ya. She is so good. You must teach her well. As soon as he finished speaking, he took Hua Hua and left in a hurry, not wanting to stay for a moment longer. He knew that if he continued to stay, sooner or later these professors' attention would turn to him. When that time comes, it will be difficult to escape. When Wen Ya saw Ning Yi and Hua Hua leaving in a hurry, she suddenly waved her fist in anger. Ning Yi, Hua Hua, you are so unloyal. You actually left me here alone. Although she said angry words, she had no time to get angry, because the next second, she was surrounded by a group of over-enthusiastic professors. Classmate Wen Ya, you have SSS-level talents and abilities. You are simply a rare talent. Our Wood Academy is also very good at studying ice element talents. Come on, let's talk. Don't listen to him. Classmate Wen Ya, space research is the future development direction, and my subject is the most suitable for you. Join our department and I guarantee that you will reach your maximum potential. Don't grab it. Student Wen Ya, I have the most resources here, and you will be the core student of our department when you come. Classmate Wen Ya, come to our Jean College. I still have a place recommended to a lower college. I can give it to your little boyfriend so that you can go to college in Tiandu together. Ning Yi had already guessed that Wen Ya would have to face the siege of a group of professors who looked like wolves and tigers. The passion in those people's eyes was like swallowing them up. He was glad that he reacted quickly and pulled Hua Hua out in time. Otherwise, if you were left in that place, you probably won't even have a way out. He shook his head helplessly while thinking about what Wen Ya might encounter. However, just when he arrived at the door of his house and before he had time to take out the key and open the door, a strange voice suddenly came from the shadow not far away. Classmate Ning Yi. Ning Yi was slightly startled and looked along the sound, only to see a tall figure standing in the corner, waving to him. The man's conspicuous red hair looked particularly vivid under the dim street lights. Little fire god Zhu Qi? Ning Yi recognized the person, frowned slightly, and suddenly became alert. Advertisement: why didn't this guy stay with Wen Ya with the group of Tiandu University professors, instead of appearing here? Did he see his hidden abilities? For a moment, Ning Yi couldn't help but frown slightly. Zhu Qi walked over generously, looked around Ning Yi and Hua Hua, and asked casually, aren't things exciting enough today? How does it feel to face an emperor-level powerhouse? Ning Yi replied lightly, it's quite exciting. His attitude was neither humble nor arrogant, with a hint of vigilance in his eyes. Zhu Qi didn't care about Ning Yi's attitude, but instead focused his eyes on Hua Hua with interest. He stared at Hua Hua's fiery red hair and raised his eyebrows slightly. Your dog, is quite special. Has it mutated? Ning Yi had no expression on his face and replied without hesitation. The die is in a pet shop in the old city. If Lord Vulcan is interested, I can take you to have a look. Zhu Qi smiled softly when he heard this, obviously not believing what Ning Yi said. However, he did not take action against Ning Yi because he deceived him. You're such a naughty boy. Zhu Qi smiled, raised a hand, and a ball of extremely hot flame suddenly appeared in his palm. The flames were so blazing that there was even a burning smell in the air. Zhu Qi waved his hand casually, and the flame instantly melted the railings of the corridor at the door, melting into a few drops of dark molten iron and dripped to the ground. Ning Yi looked at this scene. His face did not change at all, and he remained extremely calm. His eyes were as calm as water, as if Zhu Qi's hand could not cause his emotions to fluctuate at all. Interesting. As expected of being so close to Wen Ya, this mentality has surpassed that of many students who are older than you. Zhu Qi praised Ning Yi, but his eyes did not stay on Ning Yi for too long, but turned to Hua Hua. There was a hint of playfulness and curiosity in his eyes. Suddenly, he raised the flame in his palm and patted the location of the fire. The flames, with their fiery breath, formed into a roaring fire dragon in an instant, flying towards the fire. Hua Hua felt threatened, and the hair all over his body suddenly stood up in fear. Almost instinctively, Hua Hua instantly entered the elemental state. I saw its entire body turned into a pure little flame, beating dexterously in the air, letting the red flames pass through its body. Seeing this scene, Zhu Qi was stunned as if he had been struck by lightning. His smile froze on his face, and his eyes were full of shock and disbelief. Elementalization? Zhu Qi murmured to himself, with unconcealable surprise in his voice. He stared at Hua Hua with wide eyes, as if he had seen some incredible miracle. A dog actually mastered elementalization? Damn it, are you still a fire elemental like me? This is an ability that took me 2 years to master. Chapter 17. Zhu Qi, known as the Little Fire God, is one of the most powerful even among the kings. But now he was standing at the door of Ning Yi's house, so shocked by a dog that he couldn't recover for a long time. The dog that had just completed elementalization completely overturned his understanding of the world. As a strong man who has reached the pinnacle in the field of fire talent, he had never thought that a border shepherd could master elemental abilities that even many king-level geniuses had difficulty mastering. He swallowed and carefully looked at Hua Hua, who had turned back into a border collie again, with unconcealable excitement in his tone. Ning Yi, you dog, is not simple. His eyes were shining with excitement, as if he had discovered some rare treasure. After Zhu Qi was excited for a long time, he seemed to have made up his mind and spoke slowly and seriously. Ning Yi, are you willing to sell it to me? When Ning Yi heard this, he raised his eyebrows with a bit of impatience in his eyes. Before he could refuse, Zhu Qi hurriedly added, I'll give you 100 million dragon coins. 100 million dragon country coins? Ning Yi remained unmoved, his eyes cold. Seeing this, Zhu Qi gritted his teeth and continued to increase the amount. No, 500 million dragon national coins. Plus a king-level weapon that I have used before, the Burning Sky Sword. Burning Sky Sword? Ning Yi was stunned for a moment, with a slightly shocked look on his face. Zhu Qi observed Ning Yi's expression, and he felt that there might be something wrong. Then Zhu Qi raised his hand, flames surging in his palm. The next moment, a long sword about 5 feet long and flaming red appeared in his hand. The sword exudes a hot aura, and the flame lines are faintly flowing, as if it is dyed with a layer of blood, which makes people shudder. Zhu Qi looked at the burning sky sword in his hand, with a trace of nostalgia in his eyes. This is the sword that I have fought with for decades, and it has even been stained with the blood of the great emperor. It's a pity that as my realm has improved and I have reached the realm of the High Star King, I haven't used it for a long time. Fangtian's material has reached its limit. If I continue to use it to fight, I'm afraid it will be completely broken one day. Originally, I was reluctant to take it out, but for Hua Hua, I am willing to exchange it for it. There was sincerity in his voice. Obviously, this is one of the most precious things he can offer. Ning Yi also had some impressions about the Burning Sky Sword. I have seen pictures of this sword in textbooks. Now that I have seen the real thing, I find that the patterns on the sword are exactly the same as the pictures in the textbook. Advertisement for any ordinary person. If he heard such conditions, he would have been excited and agreed. After all, 500 million Dragon Kingdom coins, plus a king-level weapon stained with the blood of the great emperor are just for a dog. This deal is a real bargain. However, Ning Yi still shook his head without hesitation and replied calmly, "Not for sale." These two words made Zhu Qi stunned for a moment, and then he frowned, his face full of disbelief. "You don't want to sell? Do you think the price is too low? Then I will add 500 million Dragon Kingdom coins, for a total of 1 billion. Speaking of this, Zhu Qi even gritted his teeth. He felt that he had offered a sky-high price, 1 billion Dragon Country coins plus a king-level weapon. This kind of condition can even drive a master at the master level crazy. However, Ning Yi still shook his head, his expression calm and his tone unquestionable. "If I don't sell it, I won't sell it for any amount of money." A hint of anger appeared on Zhu Qi's face, but for Wen Ya's sake, he suppressed it forcefully. He took a deep breath to calm down. He stepped forward and hugged Ning Yi's shoulders, forcing a smile on his face. "Brother Ning Yi, please stop being ridiculous. The price I offer is enough to last you a lifetime. Since you can't be satisfied with these conditions, tell me what conditions can you use to sell Huahua to me?" Ning Yi glanced at him and raised the corners of his mouth slightly, revealing a faint smile. "If you really like Huahua, it's not that I can't give it to you. But this isn't buying it, it's—" Ning Yi deliberately gave it a try and spoke in a long tone, which whetted Zhu Qi's appetite. "If you have anything to say it quickly. Do you have to rush people to death?" Just when Zhu Qi was so hot-tempered that he was about to curse, Ning Yi finally stated his conditions. "It's very simple. Just accept him as your disciple." "What?" Zhu Qi was stunned, suspecting that he heard wrongly. "Accept it as your disciple." Ning Yi repeated it again with a firm tone. "As long as you are willing to accept Huahua as your disciple, he will be your student from now on. I will only charge you 1 billion Dragon Kingdom coins. Anyway, your Brahma sword will have to be passed on to Huahua in the future. As its owner, I will not snatch it from you." At this time, Zhu Qi was completely confused. He stared at Ning Yi for a while, as if he wanted to see signs of joking on his face. Advertisement, however, Ning Yi's expression was serious and did not look like he was joking at all. "Take a dog as your disciple?" The corner of Zhu Qi's mouth twitched slightly, and he couldn't help but speak. "Do you know what you are talking about, kid? Taking a dog as your apprentice? I don't have a single disciple to my name right now. You won't let this dog be my little Vulcan's first disciple, will you?" Ning Yi shrugged and said in a relaxed tone with a hint of ridicule, "Why, don't you want to? If you don't want to, forget it. But one thing I can tell you is that Huahua's talent is no worse than Wen Ya's. It should also be an SSS-level super talent, and it's the same fire element as you." "SSS-level?" Zhu Qi's eyes widened suddenly, with disbelief in his tone. "A dog also has SSS-level talent?" Obviously, Zhu Qi didn't believe Ning Yi's words at all. Don't always use dog to call Huahua. You have to know that a dog is a dog and a border collie is a border collie. They are different. If you don't believe it, you can find a talent stone and test it to see if it is an SSS-level fire-type gifted dog. When Zhu Qi heard this, he was completely stunned. You must know that his own fire talent, nicknamed Little Fire God, is powerful enough. It's just SS plus level. But Ning Yi actually said that this dog is an SSS level talent? A dog, a border collie, is actually more talented in the fire element than a little fire god like myself? This amount of information was too large for Zhu Qi to digest. He glanced down at Huahua, and the dog was staring at him with its head tilted and its eyes squinted. I said, "You don't understand what we just talked about, do you?" "Woof woof." "Zhu Qi, how about giving it a try?" Ning Yi smiled and raised his eyebrows. "How can you know if what I said is true if you don't try it? If Huahua really has SSS-level talents, then it makes sense for you to accept Huahua as your disciple. Whoever dares to laugh at you will use Huahua to compete with his apprentices in talent. Let Huahua sit in front of his apprentice during class." Zhu Qi took a deep breath, hesitated for a moment, and nodded. After all, recruiting a disciple is a very important matter. If Huahua really has SSS-level fire-type talents, then Zhu Qi will be missing out. Chapter 18. Zhu Qi stepped on the clouds spitting flames, and his figure instantly turned into a streak of fire, flying rapidly towards the Tianhai City Education Bureau building. It was almost early in the morning, but the lights in the Tianhai City Education Bureau building were still bright. All staff are working overtime nervously, counting the talent data from all middle schools in the city. In order to compare the performance with other cities and summarize the results and trends of this year's work as soon as possible, every member of the Education Bureau is very busy. However, As the director of the Education Bureau, Lin Hai's mood at this time was completely different from the others. He, who was originally anxious because of Wen Ya's disappearance, had already relaxed now, and his face was filled with excitement and pride. He has already found out the information. After Wen Ya was rescued, the professors from Tiandu University who came from the capital almost rushed to dig up Wen Ya. There is an SSS-level talent in the area that I am responsible for. You should know according to the statistics of recent years. I haven't seen an SS-level talented person for several years. Lin Hai knew that he had trained one this year. Then wait until the college entrance examination is over and the education sector begins its annual review. All eyes will be on him. The Tianhai Municipal Education Bureau's status in the education sector of Longhua will also skyrocket. What's more, due to an accident, this year's college entrance examination venue was also set in Tianhai City, which he is responsible for. 2 big pies fell from the sky, and they all hit him on the head. Naturally, he was so excited that he wanted to take the initiative to work overtime. The future is bright. Just as Lin Hai was thinking excitedly about the honor he was about to receive, a sudden burst of hot air pulled him out of his thoughts. He looked up, and at some point, a figure suddenly appeared by the window. This man had a burning cloud under his feet, with fiery red hair, and waves of terrifying coercion coming from his body. Lin Hai was startled, instinctively thinking that the enemy was coming, and wanted to stand up to meet the enemy. But when he saw that the person coming was Zhu Qi, the tension on his face disappeared instantly and was replaced by one of extreme respect. He quickly stood up, quickly opened the window, and waved to Zhu Qi, "Little Vulcan. Why do you have time to come here? Come in quickly." Zhu Qi did not greet him as usual, but spoke directly. "Director Lin, please lend me a talent test stone. I need it urgently." Lin Hai was stunned for a moment, and then a trace of hesitation appeared on his face. Talent test stone? There was a little embarrassment on his face. Advertisement: the talent test stone is a valuable item belonging to the Ministry of Education and is usually sealed in the warehouse. Unless approved by the Ministry of Education, no one can use it privately. What's more, 2 big pieces of pie just fell from the sky and hit Lin Hai on the head. He didn't want to lend out the talent test stone privately because he wanted to have a personal relationship with the little Vulcan, thereby receiving a big demerit. This will affect his career. He looked at Lin Hai with a slightly embarrassed look on his face. Zhu Qi's face showed a hint of anxiety. "I know Director Lin Hai is in a bit of a dilemma, but I urgently need it now." Lin Hai frowned and suddenly fell into deep thought. The talent test stone will only be used during the annual talent test and will never be used casually. Even he couldn't easily let it escape from the Education Bureau. However, seeing Zhu Qi's eager face, Lin Hai also hesitated. After all, Zhu Qi is the top expert in the Dragon Kingdom, so he should not act without any purpose. He thought for a long time and finally asked, "This, little Vulcan, have you discovered any talents in our Tianhai city?" Lin Hai hesitated for a moment, but still asked. Zhu Qi suppressed the impatience in his heart, forced down the urge to snatch the talent test stone, and spoke calmly. I found a kid with great potential, but he failed to take the talent test this year." Lin Hai raised his brows slightly, with a hint of interest on his face. "Really? Is it possible for that child to reach S+ level talent? If anything, we can't let this talent be buried even at the risk of making a mistake." When Zhu Qi heard this, a look of disdain appeared on his face, and he almost couldn't help but get angry at Lin Hai. He knew that Lin Hai obviously had not realized the seriousness of the matter. If Hua is a guy who can't even reach S+ level talents, he, Zhu Qi, couldn't possibly rush here in such a hurry to borrow the talent stone. S+? Humph. That child is probably another SSS-level talent in your Tianhai city. As soon as these words came out, Lin Hai was stunned. The whole person seemed to be struck by lightning and was stunned in place for an instant. Another SSS-level talent? Pies were falling from the sky again, or were they just hitting him on the head? This year, there have been 2 SSS-level talents in a row, which is something he never dared to dream of. If it is true as Zhu Qi said, there will be 2 SSS-level talented people appearing in Tianhai City this year. Well, this is not just a matter for the Tianhai Provincial Education Bureau. It may shock the entire education community of Dragon Kingdom. Advertisement: it can even attract worldwide attention. There are also years when 2 SSS-level talents appear in one year, but they never appear in the same place. If this is true, then Tianhai City will leave its name in the history of Dragon Kingdom. Lin Hai was stunned for a long time before slowly coming back to his senses. The excitement on his face could not be concealed. Is this true? It's pie in the sky again. If there are really two SSS-level talent users, then how could I miss it? Lin Hai took a deep breath, his eyes shining with determination. He patted Zhu Qi sharply on the shoulder. Let's go. Even if I bear the responsibility today, I have to help you take out the talent stone. Lin Hai has decided that no matter what, he cannot miss this opportunity that may change his life. Soon, Lin Hai took Zhu Qi to the warehouse where the talent test stones were stored. He took the initiative to break the seal of the staff of the Ministry of Education, went in and took out the best talent test stone, and handed it into Zhu Qi's hands. Little Vulcan, we can't delay the child. Go as soon as possible. If the higher-ups blame you, I will take the blame. When Zhu Qi left, there was a little curiosity in his eyes. A smirk appeared on the corner of his mouth, and he thought to himself, what if Director Lin Hai knew that this second SSS-level talent turned out to be a border collie? How shocked would he be? With such curiosity, Zhu Qi quickly returned to Ning Yi's house. Seeing that Zhu Qi actually borrowed the talent test stone back, Ning Yi couldn't help but sigh in his heart that a strong man like him has great energy and wide connections. Come on, Hua Hua. Put your claws on it. Zhu Qi came to Hua Hua holding the talent test stone and said with a smile. After a while, as a terrifying wave of flames came from Ning Yi's house. However, this wave of flames only existed for a moment and was deliberately covered up. At this moment, the face of the little fire god Zhu Qi showed an expression of ecstasy. Ha ha ha, you old guys should just grab when you're right there. Master, I picked up a big leak today. Come on, Hua Hua, call me Master. As the founding disciple of my master, Master will give you some good things. Chapter 19. Obviously, Zhu Qi was very happy to have accepted a disciple with SSS-level talents, even though this apprentice is just a border collie. But no matter what it is, this SSS-level talent cannot be faked. What's more, he still has the same firepower as Zhu Qi. Maybe Hua Hua's achievements in the future will be even higher than his master. Come on, Hua Hua. As your master, it is really unjustifiable not to give you some greeting gifts. This is the Burning Sky Sword, a low-star king-level fire-type longsword. When you come back, I will put some restrictions on the sword so that you can use it from bronze to the king level. This is the Fire Dragon armor. It is made from the only reverse scale on a low-star king realm fire dragon. Although it doesn't fit you well now, when you go back, I will help you get it from the blacksmithing academy and find the boss in person. I'll change the style of the paragraph for you. This is the Fire God flag, made of lava cowhide from the Flame Mountain, which can enhance the temperature when using flames. This is the Soul Burning token. If you are in danger, you can contact your master and me through this token. This is... Zhu Qi took out many precious treasures from his space bag and placed them one by one in front of Hua Hua. He also specially handed Hua Hua a high-end space bag and told him to try to use this space bag to store all these treasures. However, what he didn't expect was, Hua Hua did not do what Zhu Qi thought, and picked up the space bag and began to collect these treasures. On the contrary, it waggled its big tail and took the treasures that Zhu Qi took out one by one in front of Ning Yi. He also wagged his tail proudly, as if asking for credit. Haha, good dog, good dog. When Ning Yi saw this scene, he suddenly laughed from ear to ear. He leaned down and took out a large bag of dog food from the cabinet. He even opened a few dried chicken legs and handed them to Hua Hua. At this moment, Hua Hua was so happy that he almost jumped up. It barked happily a few times, obviously immersed in the delicious food. When Zhu Qi saw this scene, he was furious and cursed angrily. For a pack of dog food and a few chicken drumsticks, you sold all the good things my master gave you? If you put these in an auction house, which one would be worth hundreds of millions of national coins? Hua Hua, don't eat these, go back with me. My teacher will take you to taste all the delicacies in the world. However, Hua Hua didn't seem to buy it. He just turned back and glanced at Zhu Qi, not happy that he interrupted his eating. Advertisement. It barked twice at Zhu Qi with great dissatisfaction. Then he was still concentrating on chewing the big chicken drumstick in his mouth, and had no intention of paying attention to the furious Zhu Qi. Seeing this scene, Zhu Qi suddenly realized something. No wonder Ning Yi has always insisted on making Hua Hua his apprentice. I'm afraid this grandson is planning to use fire to continue to pluck his own wool. Damn it, I was fooled. After reacting, Zhu Qi jumped in anger. But now that he is asked to regret it, he is definitely not willing to do so. After all, Hua has an SSS-level pure fire talent. If you miss it, I'm afraid I won't be able to receive a disciple with such a powerful talent in the future. No, I have to find a way to get a wisdom pill when I get back, so that Hua can grow a brain and understand that people's hearts are sinister. Otherwise, no matter how many good things I give it in the future, I'm afraid they will all be deceived by Ning Yi, the B******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* Hua picked up into the space bag one by one. Carefully tighten the mouth of the bag. Then thread the space bag with a rope and hang it around Hua's neck. Then, he picked up the Brahma sword, patted the blade gently, felt the violent flame power in the Brahma sword, and couldn't help but admire in his heart. What a great sword! Then, Ning Yi stretched out his hand, touched Hua's hair, and said, Hua, I will borrow this sword for a while. When I have a better one, I will return it to you. Hua barked twice, seeming to agree with Ning Yi's decision. It immediately lowered its head, took off the space bag from its neck, pressed its paws on the space bag, and shook its head very generously. The meaning of Hua is that if Ning Yi likes the things inside, he can take them as he pleases. Seeing this scene, Ning Yi couldn't help but rub Hua's big head again and said with a smile, One sword is enough. From now on, I have to practice hard with the little Vulcan. I can't be lazy and try to steal all his abilities. Otherwise, the daily dog food will be halved. Woof woof. Seeing that Ning Yi only held a sword, the anger on Zhu Qi's face faded slightly. Advertisement. He clasped his hands on his chest, obviously not yet completely calming down his dissatisfaction. Ning Yi turned to Zhu Qi and asked directly, Little Vulcan, can Hua be admitted to school? He is taking classes at Tiandu University like Wen Ya. Zhu Qi's face suddenly changed slightly, and he seemed a little hesitant, but he finally nodded. That should work, Ning Yi said with a smile. Then it should be arranged according to the living standards of Tiandu University students. It is best to live in a single dormitory, have good meals every day, and enjoy all the benefits of the school. Zhu Qi's face turned darker, and he said very dissatisfied. Hua is my apprentice. Can I still treat him badly? However, as soon as Zhu Qi finished speaking, Ning Yi explained to Hua in a low voice. Hua, just leave enough money to buy dog food. Send the rest back, and I'll save it for you first. Save it for you to spend later. Woof woof. Zhu Qi's face suddenly turned darker, and he was very angry, but he couldn't get angry in front of Hua. After all, Ning Yi has raised Hua for so long. He is afraid that he will be angry with Ning Yi and cause Hua to be dissatisfied, and he does not want to recognize himself as his master. Ning Yi looked at the thief in Hua's eyes and began to mourn for Zhu Qi in his heart. Based on his understanding of Hua is a master at harvesting wool. Immediately, Ning Yi asked Zhu Qi again, Little Vulcan, Hua, do you need to take the college entrance examination this time? Zhu Qi was stunned when he heard this, then glanced at Hua thoughtfully and asked tentatively, Hua, do you want to take the college entrance examination? If you don't want to, just scream twice. With your talent, you can definitely be admitted to school. When Hua heard this question, his eyes immediately lit up. The tail also shook excitedly. The flame patterns on the body began to appear, and the small flames on the tail also appeared again. Obviously, it is very interested in the idea of taking the college entrance examination. When Zhu Qi saw Hua's reaction, he understood its meaning without Ning Yi's translation. Then he reached out and patted Hua's head gently, smiling. If you want to go, then go. Let's go. Master will take you to the Education Bureau to find Director Lin Hai and sign up for the college entrance examination. Chapter 20. Zhu Qi put the talent test stone back on, held Hua, and flew to the Tianhai City Education Bureau building with the burning cloud under his feet. With every flight, the fierce airflow brought by Huo Sheyan seemed to make the air in Tianhai City become warm and exciting. Zhu Qi's mood became more and more comfortable with this flow of air. It seemed that all the anger he had received from Ning Yi was vented at this moment. At the same time, Lin Hai, director of the Tianhai Municipal Education Bureau, was anxiously waiting for news. Ever since I heard that Zhu Qi had discovered a student who might have SSS-level talents, Lin Hai's mood has been in suspense, looking forward to the big pie that made him soar in the education world fall again. Just as his heart was fluctuating, a familiar flaming cloud quickly approached from a distance. Lin Hai's heartbeat suddenly accelerated. He knew that Zhu Qi was back. Whether you can seize the opportunity this time and soar into the sky depends on the news that the little Vulcan brings back next. The fire cloud gradually approached and dissipated with the red light. Zhu Qi landed steadily in front of the Education Bureau building, and Hua Hua landed with him, wagging his tail and looking around excitedly. Lin Hai noticed that when Zhu Qi came back this time, there was a dog accompanying him. This confused him. He had never heard that Zhu Qi had the habit of raising dogs. Lin Hai was stunned for a moment, but then he was relieved. It's not surprising that a big shot like Zhu Qi likes anything. Wait until Zhu Qi and Hua Hua stand still. Lin Hai immediately stepped forward and asked enthusiastically, "Little Vulcan, how's the matter? What kind of talent does that student have?" Hearing this, Zhu Qi showed a happy smile on his face and his voice was low and powerful. SSS-level. These words struck Lin Hai's heart like a bolt of thunder. It's really pie in the sky again. Another SSS-level. I'm going to fly into the sky too. Lin Hai was stunned for a long time before finally recovering. SSS-level talented people, the best beings in the world. And this year in Tiandu City, 2 appeared at once. That's 2. Looking at Lin Hai, who was in ecstasy, Zhu Qi smiled slightly and started talking about business. "Director Lin, I have accepted this student as my apprentice. Advertisement, however, it has not yet attended high school and cannot take the college entrance examination. I would like to ask you to do a favor and register it so that it can take the college entrance examination." After hearing Zhu Qi's words, Lin Hai naturally had 100 wishes in his heart. When he just heard that Zhu Qi had accepted him as his disciple, Lin Hai was worried whether the little Vulcan would hide the news. But now, Zhu Qi actually took the initiative to mention this matter and gave him this opportunity. This is a huge favor. Another SSS-level genius registered with his own education bureau. This is simply God pushing me to make progress. No problem. Wrap it around me. Lin Hai's voice was full of determination. As long as it is your request, I will definitely help. It will be a lifelong regret for each of our educators to let such a genius miss the college entrance examination. Lin Hai patted his chest and promised that he was speaking righteously. I also thought that Director Lin would be a little embarrassed. It seems that Director Lin is indeed an excellent educator. There was a smile on Zhu Qi's lips, and at the same time there was some expectation in his heart. Wait, how will Lin Hai react if he knows that the person who signed up is a dog? By the way, little Vulcan, what's this child's name? How old are you this year? Where do you live? I will drive to pick you up myself. If you are registering for the college entrance examination, you need to take a photo and upload it to the Ministry of Education. I can take the photo for you personally. Zhu Qi smiled softly, lowered his head, and looked at Hua Hua with a hint of doting in his eyes. I brought it here. Its name is Hua Hua, and it's 2 years old this year. If Director Lin doesn't mind the trouble, take a picture of it now and sign up. Lin Hai followed Zhu Qi's gaze and saw Hua Hua sitting quietly on the ground, his tail swaying slightly, a faint smile hanging on the corner of his mouth, and a hint of mischief in his eyes. Seeing this scene, Lin Hai was stunned. It took a long time to realize that the apprentice Zhu Qi was talking about was actually a dog. This made Lin Hai's mouth twitch unconsciously twice, and a look of embarrassment appeared on his face. No wonder the little Vulcan would come directly to me. Sign up a dog for the college entrance examination? This is the first of its kind in the world. Zhu Qi looked at Lin Hai, who was stunned, and continued to speak. It's the genius I mentioned, and its name is Hua Hua. Although it is a dog, I have tested its talent. Its SSS-level fire talent is far superior to others. Although Zhu Qi's tone was calm, it made Lin Hai unable to say a word, no. At this time, he already regretted that he agreed so early. How can it be a dog? Advertisement. Lin Hai scratched his head in embarrassment. Forget it, forget it. You can't regret what you promised to the little Vulcan and make him look bad. Sign up directly and make things difficult for those guys in charge of the college entrance examination. Lin Hai took a deep breath and tried to calm down. He glanced at Hua Hua with complicated eyes and then forced out a smile. Hua Hua, come and register with me. 10 minutes later, a staff member of the Longwa Ministry of Education who was responsible for statistics on the talents of students in various places suddenly let out an exclamation at his workstation. OMG! The second SSS-level talent user. His exclamation immediately attracted the attention of everyone in the office. Almost instantly, a large group of people gathered behind him. They were all crowded into a small workstation, looking at the information about the newly discovered SSS-level talent. It's still Tiandu City? What's going on in Tiandu City this year? I remember that this morning, didn't an ice-type SSS-level talent just come out? Why did another one come at night? I have been working here for decades and have never encountered such a situation once. A gray-haired employee couldn't help but exclaimed, "The name is Huohua? Is it a nickname? What do the employees in Tiandu City do for food? How come their nicknames are included in the statistics?" A young employee wearing glasses complained dissatisfiedly. "Wait, don't worry about the name for now. Look at your age." His age is 2 years old? Impossible. How can you take the college entrance examination at such a young age? Do you have any photos? Let me take a look. The photo hasn't been sent yet. Please wait for a minute. I want to see if these guys in Tiandu City have really made a mistake. 1 minute later, all the staff who saw the photo of the candidate named Huohua fell silent. Look at the happy dog on the computer screen. The staff at the college entrance examination office almost cursed me. Damn it. How can any dog sign up for the college entrance examination? Isn't this dog going to go to college too? Chapter 21. Originally, the college entrance examination office was planning to cancel Huohua's college entrance examination quota. After all, Huohua's situation is completely different from that of regular students. He is a dog. Even if it has SSS-level talents and abilities, it is still a dog with SSS-level talents and abilities. But the little fire god Zhu Qi is not an ordinary person after all. He continued to exert pressure and returned to Tiandu, holding the college entrance examination registration rules word by word to the director of the college entrance examination office to explain. There is no provision in the registration rules that prohibits dogs from taking the college entrance examination. The college entrance examination office finally compromised. Huohua was finally allowed to take the college entrance examination and became the first and last special candidate. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was the day before the college entrance examination. Ning Yi had just finished his morning exercise that day and came home panting, ready to take a shower and tidy up for the upcoming college entrance examination tomorrow. However, the moment he opened the door, he was surprised to find Wen Ya and Huohua standing in his home. This person and the dog have not seen each other for a month. Compared with them before, whether it is gentle or fiery, the temperament has undergone significant changes. Wen Ya exudes a calm and unhurried temperament. It seems that after this period of practice, her aura and spirit have reached a new peak. Huohua, on the other hand, is smarter and smarter than before. With his sharp eyes, he looks much smarter than before. Did that guy Zhu Qi really find the Kaiji Dan for Huohua? Ning Yi couldn't help but think in his heart. Compared with him, Ning Yi still looks simple and ordinary, and there doesn't seem to be much change. Ning Yi asked them to wait for a while, changed their clothes and took a shower. Then he held Huohua in his arms. Huohua also happily rubbed his face with her little head. Ning Yi looked at Wen Ya with a smile, as if waiting for her to speak. Wen Ya did not respond immediately, but deliberately pouted and said slightly dissatisfied, "We haven't seen each other for such a long time. Don't you want to ask me and Huohua how strong we are now? We have made great progress. If you don't work hard, you won't be able to catch up with us. Perhaps you will have to live with us too in the future." There was a hint of pride in Wen Ya's tone. Advertisement, however, when she said the 3 words, "eat soft rice," her face turned slightly rosy. Ning Yi chuckled in his heart and thought to himself, "Wen Ya, I know better than you yourself how much progress you have made." After all, during these days, Wen Ya and Huohua continued to receive training rewards from their practice. Every time they make progress in their practice, Ning Yi will receive 10 times the ability feedback from the system prompts. This makes Ning Yi's control of these 2 abilities much stronger than before. Compared to myself a month ago, Ning Yi's strength has grown tremendously in the use of frozen fruits and burned fruits. Since you have all improved so much, I have to rely on you to guide me in the college entrance examination tomorrow," Ning Yi said with a hint of teasing. Wen Ya's eyes flashed, and then she said seriously, "I came here today just to discuss this matter with you. The 3 of us, Huohua, will form a team and try to win the top 3 spots in this national college entrance examination." Listening to Wen Ya's words, a smile appeared on Ning Yi's lips. He naturally guessed what Wen Ya was thinking. In fact, for Wen Ya and Huohua, it doesn't matter whether they are in the top 3 or not. Because they already have SSS-level talents, they can be recommended to Tiandu University. But Ning Yi is different. He does not have any talent in the official registration records. Therefore, Wen Ya plans to use this opportunity of the college entrance examination to push Ning Yi's total score to the top of the list. Even if Ning Yi has no talent, maybe Tiandu University will be open to Ning Yi because of his status as the top pick. Give him a chance to enroll. However, Wen Ya and Huohua did not choose to be admitted directly, but came to take the college entrance examination just to give Ning Yi a try. When the time comes, They will go to Tiandu together to study at Tiandu University. Ning Yi was silent for a while. He understood Wen Ya and Hua's good intentions. But he also knows that there is no talent or ability, only the college entrance examination results. No matter how high my scores are and I get the top prize in the country, I still can't get into Tiandu University. Because in this world now, pure martial arts has become rubbish among rubbish. Ever since Long Wu, the last pure martial arts emperor of the Dragon Kingdom, entered the rift between heaven and earth, the martial arts of the entire world seem to have disappeared. Advertisement in the past 200 years, no one has reached the king level through the power of pure martial arts. Even the master level is rare. Although pure martial arts is powerful in the later stage, its upper limit has almost been locked. No matter how good a person's martial arts talent is, it is of no use at all. Even if you are lucky enough to reach the master level, you can't go any further. Decades ago, it was not impossible that a pure martial arts candidate won the second place in the college entrance examination with a pair of fists. But in the end, no undergraduate university in the entire Long Kingdom accepted him. In desperation, he had no choice but to go to a martial arts college in Tiandu. Although he became slightly famous later on, he was submerged among the endless stream of geniuses with special abilities. With this precedent, almost everyone knows that Tiandu University or all undergraduate universities will never accept students without talents. Ning Yi looked up at Wen Ya and Hua and said softly, I know what you want, and I will try my best to take the exam. But I advise you not to have too much hope. No matter whether the final results are good or bad, the threshold of Tiandu University will always be there. It should be impossible for me to get in. Hearing Ning Yi's words, Wen Ya couldn't help but feel a little angry. Your innate ability is obviously so powerful. Why can't it be measured? And you still won't let me say it. Seeing Wen Ya's dissatisfied look, Ning Yi smiled and said, Everyone has their own secrets, and I still have my own career to do. If I enter Tiandu University, it may be difficult for me to achieve my martial arts skills. You have all practiced hockey with me, so you naturally know how powerful hockey is. In a place like Tiandu University that doesn't pay much attention to martial arts, domineering power cannot be spread. What's more, the more top the school, the more dangerous it is for me, such as the secret of the devil fruit you have eaten. Hearing this, Wen Ya somewhat understood why Ning Yi was unwilling to take the initiative to expose his talents. Ning Yi alone has the ability to give others SSS-level talents. It's enough to make him fall into a place of eternal destruction. I respect your choice. But no matter what, we must win the college entrance examination this time. Even if you plan to go to college, you still have to be the top scorer in the college entrance examination. Hua and I owe you this. Chapter 22. Early the next morning, Ning Yi received a message from the college entrance examination office. These are the specific rules for this college entrance examination. This time the college entrance examination will last for a full month. If you are eliminated during this period or leave the examination room early, the college entrance examination will automatically end. This college entrance examination adopts a point system. The specific regulations are, killing a bronze-level undead can accumulate 1 point. Silver-level undead accumulate 10 points. Gold-level undead accumulate 100 points. Platinum-level undead accumulate 1,000 points. The black iron-level undead are not scored. This rule made Ning Yi understand that the focus of the exam is not on the basic undead, but on the advanced undead. Only by defeating stronger enemies can you truly accumulate enough points and enter the rankings. However, defeating the platinum-level undead was actually awarded 1,000 points, which surprised Ning Yi. But you can understand it if you think about it. If a newly graduated student can reach the gold level, he is already the best among all graduates. It is almost impossible to have platinum-level strength. As for those platinum-level undead, Ning Yi guessed that they were set up to provide points for the team. He continued to look down, and sure enough, the rules mentioned that teams could be formed for this college entrance examination. But there can only be a team of 5 people at most, and the final score will be the average score within the team. There is also a special rule. If someone in the team is eliminated, the final points will still be calculated based on the initial number of players. This means that if someone in the team is eliminated along the way, the entire team's performance will be affected. Especially for a team that eliminates 4 members at once, the remaining one will probably cry to death on the spot. In addition, points can be distributed freely within the team. However, the difference between each person's score and the team's average score shall not exceed 10%. Nor shall it exceed the team's total score. Also, Every candidate who takes the college entrance examination will receive an elimination order. This elimination order is deeply bound to the candidate's soul and cannot be transferred. If you encounter fatal injuries, you will be teleported out of the examination room and the examination will end immediately. Ning Yi read the college entrance examination rules over and over again and carefully considered every detail. Although the rules are complicated, they are very different from those in previous years. The entrance to the examination room in Tiandu City is set near the Abyss of the Dead. Candidates from other cities will enter the periphery of the necromantic abyss through the teleportation array. Ning Yi and the others came relatively late. However, because of Wen Ya, many candidates from Tiandu City still set their sights on them. Advertisement, especially some boys. When they saw Ning Yi teaming up with Wen Ya, who had SSS-level talents, they all drooled with envy. With SSS-level talents and abilities, wouldn't it mean that he would start killing randomly when he entered the Abyss of the Dead? This is a free score. At the same time, many people are envious of Wen Ya's privileges. You can even bring pets into the Abyss examination room. Soon after, the countdown outside the examination room officially began. As the last second passes, Ning Yi, Wen Ya, Hua, as well as hundreds of thousands of candidates in Tiandu City, along with tens of millions of candidates from other places, were teleported into the entrance of the Abyss of the Dead. Return to the undead abyss. The familiar scenes around him once again appeared before his eyes. The breath of the undead rushed towards my face, and the air was filled with the smell of decay and death, as if the whole world was shrouded in death. Under the month-long transformation of the instructors, the chaotic abyss of death was divided into 5 layers. Basically, the fewer the layers, the weaker the undead are. The higher the level, the stronger the undead are. But this is not fixed. The undead can move freely on these 5 floors. Whoever is unfortunate enough to encounter the big guy will only be considered unlucky. Ning Yi and the others are now on the first level of the undead abyss. The surroundings are densely packed with candidates from all over the world. Fortunately, the Abyss of the Dead is big enough, otherwise it would not be able to accommodate so many candidates. However, some unlucky candidates ran into the nearby undead as soon as they appeared. The fight begins immediately. Ning Yi and the others are relatively lucky. He didn't hit the undead head-on. On the contrary, the surrounding undead seemed to be aware of the power of Ning Yi and the others. He chose to actively avoid Ning Yi and the others. Let's go down directly. Most of the undead on the first floor are black iron level. Killing them is useless. Wen Ya and Hua nodded and began to look for the passage to the lower level with Ning Yi. Soon, Ning Yi and Wen Ya discovered a passage ahead. However, 2 groups of people gathered near the passage. The atmosphere seemed a bit tense, and there seemed to be a dispute. They became interested in the situation before them and quietly approached, ready to join in the fun. After getting closer, they heard a distant roar with an accent from Tiandu City. Why don't you let us enter the passage to the next level? When the other group of people guarding the door heard this, they all sneered with contempt. Advertisement, no one will let you in. Take a look for yourself. There is a sign here that clearly states the price is 500 Longhua coins per person. You can just pay and pass. The candidate with the Tiandu City accent was obviously unconvinced, and his tone began to get a little excited. It's not like you opened the channel. Why should you charge us money? The person at the door still sneered without any fear. Then you can try it without paying. However, our boss is an S-level fire element talent, and his strength has reached gold level. If you want to lose the opportunity to take the college entrance examination and be eliminated at the beginning, then just try to force your way in. Hearing this, the candidates in Tiandu City immediately seemed hesitant. To them, a gold-level expert is indeed considered a powerful guy. Some candidates who were afraid of losing the opportunity to take the college entrance examination and were unwilling to pay for it began to quietly retreat and look for other channels. Those who were a little tougher, after comparing the strengths of the 2 sides for a while, still chose to pay and enter. They were afraid of getting into trouble because of their impulse and missed the college entrance examination. Otherwise, you will have to wait another year. Ning Yi and Wen Ya stood not far away, observing this scene silently, with a sneer flashing in their eyes. Unexpectedly, in such a serious college entrance examination scene, I can actually meet people who are trying to take advantage of others. These people are so bold that they dare to start a toll passage business in the examination room. Isn't this giving yourself money? Ning Yi chuckled lightly and said with a smile, I didn't expect that I could make a lot of money this time by taking the college entrance examination. There was a hint of amusement in his eyes. At the same time, I have begun to think about how I should take this opportunity to deal with these guys who dare to try to charge channel fees. Wen Ya glanced at the group of guys blocking the entrance to collect fees, and there was a hint of ridicule on her face. This kind of person really brings trouble to the entire examination room. Relying on my own strength, even the passage on the first floor has to be blocked and charged, and the gold level has lost their face. If you really have the ability, just block the passage to the fourth floor. She didn't bother to speak, and there was a hint of disdain in her tone. Hey, Wen Ya, what a great idea you have. How about we block the passage on the fourth floor later and start earning points? Others use strength to bully the weak, so let's use strength to bully the strong. Wen Ya rolled her eyes at Ning Yi, then looked at the group of people blocking the door and sneered loudly. Don't think about the fourth floor yet. Deal with these people first. Didn't you hear that? Their boss is an S-level fire element talent user with gold level strength. Woof woof. Leave it to me. Chapter 23. After the group of people guarding the door heard the conversation between Wen Ya and Ning Yi, the atmosphere instantly became a little subtle. Suddenly, a spirited young man with colorful hair and body covered with dragon and tiger patterns walked up. He stared at Wen Ya and Ning Yi provocatively, with a fierce glint in his eyes and a bad tone. What's going on, man? If you're not convinced, let's block the door? Then just try it out. As soon as he finished speaking, the crowd immediately turned their attention to Ning Yi and Wen Ya. However, after some candidates from Tiandu City looked at them, surprise suddenly flashed in their eyes. Obviously, they have recognized Wen Ya's identity. She seems to be the genius of our Tiandu City, right? Wen Ya, SSS-level ice-type talent. Probably. I didn't expect to meet the school bell one. I hope she can drive these people away. These bullying bastards should have been punished long ago. I hope Wen Ya can defeat these guys until they withdraw from the exam early. When the group of people guarding the gate heard these discussions, their expressions suddenly became complicated. Especially the spirited young man who came up to provoke him was so frightened that he quickly took several steps back. And sitting at the door of the passage, he was called a bald boss with gold-level strength. After hearing this sentence, his eyes suddenly tightened and his face became a little ugly. Why are you so unlucky to meet this god just after opening? This bald boss is called Dong Biao, nicknamed Firewolf. There was no longer any look of contempt on his face at this time. He stood up abruptly, and his original arrogant attitude immediately disappeared. Dong Biao reacted quickly and immediately rushed to Ning Yi and the others after getting up. He showed a respectful smile to Wen Ya and took the initiative to move out of the way, with a hint of respect in his tone. It turns out it's Miss Wen Ya who's here. I'm so rude because I don't know the truth. He paused, bowed his head slightly, and then introduced himself. My dear, Dong Biao, nicknamed Firewolf, is from the Dong family of Tiandu. I really didn't expect you to come to my place. My subordinates were very offensive just now and bumped into you. Please ignore the faults of others. After that, Dong Biao waved his hand and called the energetic young man from far away. Then in the shocked eyes of everyone, Dong Biao's right hand turned into a wolf's claw burning with fire and struck the heart of the energetic young man just now. Advertisement with a flash of white light. Just now, the spirited young man with colorful hair ended his college entrance examination journey with a score of 0. After doing this, Dong Biao waved his hand and pointed at the passage he controlled. Miss Wen Ya, this road is controlled by our Dong family. You can enter at any time. After finishing speaking, he did not forget to add something. Actually, our Dong family also has considerable influence in Tiandu City. If Miss Wen Ya needs any help in the future, she can come to us at any time. After saying this, Dong Biao's attitude became more humble. As a person born in Tiandu, he naturally knows how terrifying the potential of a guy with SSS-level talents and abilities is. Hearing Dong Biao's words, Wen Ya and Ning Yi looked at each other, understanding each other tacitly. Wen Ya smiled indifferently and walked around outside with fire, but did not directly enter the passage provided by Dong Biao. Ning Yi stayed where he was and asked Dong Biao with a smile, "How much did you earn today?" He stared at Dong Biao calmly, with a hint of provocation in his eyes. Dong Biao was stunned for a moment, obviously not expecting Ning Yi to suddenly ask this question. But thinking that Ning Yi was the person beside Wen Ya, he hesitated for a moment and spoke. From the beginning to now, 50 people have been released. 50 people? If 500 per person, you have already made 25,000 in such a short period of time? What a good business. Listening to the sarcasm in Ning Yi's mouth, Dong Biao's face changed slightly, and a hint of vigilance flashed in his eyes. Are there any of your people in the passages on each floor at the back? What's the charge? Is it still 500? Although Dong Biao was wary of Ning Yi's question, he answered honestly after thinking for a moment. The second level charges 1,000, and the third level charges 5,000. There is no one of us on the fourth floor. Hearing this, Ning Yi smiled disdainfully. There is no one on the fourth level, maybe because you are afraid of offending the strong ones among the candidates, right? What a bunch of bullies. Dong Biao, who was blushing after being scolded by Ning Yi, coughed deliberately to try to relieve the embarrassment. But after a moment, he sneered. Advertisement for Miss Wen Ya's sake. I don't want to argue with you. We are just trying to make a little money for Master Dong. After all, this business is not only run by our young master from the Dong family, but young masters and daughters from other families are also involved. We all sell each other face, and we can make each other look good. Speaking of this, Dong Biao sounded a little disdainful. However, next, the threat in his words became more and more obvious. However, if Miss Wen Ya really wants to stir up trouble and doesn't sell our face, our Dong family is not a vegetarian. My young master is an SS-level earth element user, and there are many brothers on the 3 floors below. Even you may not be able to persist until the end of the college entrance examination. The threat in Dong Biao's words was quite obvious. After Ning Yi heard this, not only did he not look afraid at all, instead, he raised the corners of his mouth slightly, revealing a meaningful smile, and continued to ask, I'm very curious. They are all young masters and daughters of big families, so why are they still trying to rob these candidates? Are they really short of money? Dong Biao sneered. It seemed that he was more confident than before. This is the money that the young master earned by his own skills. Naturally, he feels more at ease when he spends it. The smile at the corner of Ning Yi's mouth deepened. So that's it. Once you explain it like this, I will no longer feel that it will be difficult for you if I rob you. Hole. What do you mean? Hearing the threat in Ning Yi's mouth, Dong Biao took 2 steps back, and his gold-level strength burst out. Nothing else. If you steal other people's money, then I will steal your money. If you people from the Dong family want to continue taking the college entrance examination, each of you can give us 50,000 yuan. For a leader like you, let me take you 500,000 yuan. After hearing Ning Yi's words, Dong Biao instantly laughed angrily. Brothers, have you seen that someone dares to rob our Dong family? If this reaches the young master's ears, we're afraid we'll have to pack up and leave. What do you think we should do? Can you bear it? As soon as Dong Biao's voice came out, there was an immediate response. Cannot. So what if she has SSS-level talents? If she goes against our Dong family, she will end the college entrance examination early. Chapter 24. Dong Biao gave an order, and the men guarding the entrance of the passage immediately surrounded him like a pack of wolves eyeing their prey. Nearly 100 aggressive candidates formed a tight encirclement, trapping Ning Yi, Wen Ya, and Hua in the center. The tension in the air solidified instantly, and everyone could feel a sense of oppression. The surrounding candidates retreated into the distance one after another. No one dared to come closer, and their eyes were full of fear. They were afraid that these people would regard them and Wen Ya and others as accomplices. However, Ning Yi stood there, expressionless, with his hands behind his back, not panicking at all. Wen Ya stood beside him with cold eyes, ready to take action at any time. Hua was squatted quietly on the ground, his eyes slightly narrowed, as if he was choosing his opponent. Ning Yi looked at the surrounding enemies. His tone was calm, but with a hint of cold ridicule. Are you really willing to give up on this college entrance examination? I advise you to think more about it. It's only 50,000 dragon national coins, which shouldn't be much for you. There was a hint of ridicule in his words, which made Dong Biao and others furious. Dong Biao's men all had evil eyes and were already gearing up to take action. However, at this moment, a grumpy subordinate of Dong Biao, named Zhang Chong, could no longer bear Ning Yi's arrogance. I saw him standing up, exuding anger, violently waving his fist towards Ning Yi. Zhang Chong's strength is at the peak of Baiyin, and his talent is a B-level enhanced punch. As Dong Biao's loyal thug, his fist suddenly expanded and hit Ning Yi's head. His fists carry extremely terrifying power. Although he only has peak silver-level strength, as long as his punch hits the vital point, even a gold-level strongman will not be able to withstand it. I'm afraid it will turn into a white light on the spot and end this college entrance examination. However, facing such a fierce punch, Ning Yi did not show any panic. He just smiled coldly and easily caught Zhang Chong's powerful fist, It seems that 10 times the strength is nothing to him. Zhang Chang felt the terrifying power in Ning Yi's hands, and his eyes were full of disbelief. He did not expect that his punch did not pose any threat to Ning Yi. A sneer appeared at the corner of Ning Yi's mouth, and then he activated his armed hockey and attached the armed hockey to his arm. The next moment, his fist hit Zhang Chang's chest with lightning speed. Zhang Chang only had time to let out a painful cry. The bones in his chest were directly shattered, and he suddenly lost his balance and flew backwards, hitting the ground heavily, with a large mouthful of blood spurting out of his mouth. Fortunately, Ning Yi controlled the intensity. Although he was seriously injured, it did not completely turn him into a ray of light and make him withdraw from the college entrance examination. At this moment, Zhang Chang lay weakly on the ground, his chest heaving violently, and it was obvious that he could no longer fight. Ning Yi put his hands in his pockets, stretched out a foot, and stepped on Zhang Chang's face, leaned down slightly and asked in his ear, "Do you have 50,000 dragon coins? If you have any, start transferring money, otherwise you will have to wait until next year to take the exam again." Advertisement. After hearing Ning Yi's words, Zhang Chang, who was stepped on by him, wanted to stand up and resist several times, but was easily suppressed by Ning Yi. "It wasn't until I lost all my strength that I finally began to give in." I saw him pick up his mobile phone and transfer 50,000 dragon national coins to Ning Yi. Listening to the sound of cash entering the account, Ning Yi smiled. "Not bad. I earned 50,000 so easily. It's really a good business." After that, Ning Yi kicked Zhang Chang and flew dozens of meters away until his head hit a rock and he fainted. But this time Ning Yi still controlled his strength. Zhang Chang was not allowed to leave directly. After dealing with Zhang Chang, Ning Yi stood on the same spot again, his eyes as sharp as a knife, scanning the more than 100 people in front of him. At this moment, this group of people was no longer as arrogant as before, and they all took a step back silently, not daring to look at Ning Yi again. His seemingly random attack just now silenced all Dong Biao's men. Dong Biao and his men were shocked at this moment, because they just didn't see clearly how Ning Yi acted. They could only see Zhang Chang's punch being pinched instantly by Ning Yi. Then his whole body went limp instantly. Dong Biao, the strongest among the group, was already sweating on his forehead. He began to feel an unprecedented pressure in his heart, because he has already felt that Ning Yi seems to be following the path of pure martial arts. Although the upper limit of pure martial arts has been locked, it is still very difficult to deal with in the early stage, especially when the strength of the person with natural abilities has not reached the platinum level and cannot strengthen his physique through natural abilities. Except for those with defensive talents, few others can withstand the attacks of pure martial arts practitioners. Dong Biao knew this very well, especially those with elemental talents like him. His body is very weak in the eyes of pure martial arts practitioners. Just as Dong Biao and others were deep in thought, Ning Yi spoke again. "Do you choose to pay, or are you preparing to withdraw from the college entrance examination? Give you a minute to think." His voice was calm, but full of oppression. All the 150 men surrounding him turned to look at Dong Biao, as if waiting for his boss's opinion. Dong Biao gritted his teeth tightly and frowned, obviously making a difficult decision. His heart was filled with struggle, but soon, a fierce light flashed in his eyes. He looked at Ning Yi coldly and said through gritted teeth, "If you rob us like this, Master Dong will not let you go easily." Ning Yi smiled slightly, not afraid, but said with a somewhat provocative tone, "You don't need to worry about this matter. I will go to your young master of the Dong family later to ask for repayment." Advertisement. There was a hint of contempt in his smile, and Dong Biao's threat seemed not worth mentioning at all. Upon hearing this, Dong Biao's face instantly became more gloomy, and a hint of coldness flashed in his eyes. Ning Yi's arrogant attitude is undoubtedly challenging the dignity of the Dong family. An uncontrollable anger had arisen in his heart, but he knew that the current situation was not the time for a head-on confrontation with Ning Yi. As long as you pay the money, even if you lose part of it, you can at least keep the channel, and the subsequent opportunities are still there. If Ning Yi is kicked out of the examination room at this time, everything for him will be in vain. Dong Biao was thinking that when all this passes, he must make Ning Yi look good. In the end, Dong Biao finally held back his anger. A trace of unwillingness flashed in his eyes, but he still whispered orders to his men behind him. "Pay the money and stop talking nonsense. If you don't have money, come to me and get it. It will be deducted from your salary after the college entrance examination." Under Dong Biao's order, all his subordinates began to transfer money to Ning Yi. Everyone handed over 50,000 dragon coins. In less than 10 minutes, Ning Yi had an extra 7.5 million Dragon Country coins in his account. In the end, Dong Biao himself took out his heart and transferred 500,000 to Ning Yi. Ning Yi's account instantly gained 8 million Dragon Country coins. The candidates around were stunned by the speed at which they were making money. Some candidates even looked at the money and were filled with envy. Ning Yi checked the balance on his account with a satisfied smile on his lips. Seeing the expression on Ning Yi's face, Dong Biao's heart was filled with anger. He had already made up his mind secretly in his heart. After Ning Yi left, he was going to contact his young master immediately and ask him to bring his experts to deal with this kid. Force him to spit out double the money he got from him. However, just when Dong Biao had already begun to think about how to make Ning Yi pay the price after the incident was over, Ning Yi, who had already collected the money, suddenly spoke to Wen Ya and Huohua. Only Dong Biao is left here, and everyone else should be sent out of the examination room. We will use him later to lead us to rob those young masters and rich men. Hearing this, Dong Biao and others who had just handed over the money immediately showed a trace of anger on their faces. Dong Biao stood up directly, pointed at Ning Yi, and roared angrily. You just promised that you would let them go. You actually don't mean what you say. Ning Yi rolled his eyes at Dong Biao and said directly, Whose talking means nothing? If I don't take action next, they will do it. As soon as Ning Yi finished speaking, Wen Ya and Huohua, who had been holding back for a long time, each took out the weapons given by their masters. They all used their devil fruit abilities to start a massacre against Dong Biao's men. Chapter 25. Wen Ya and Huohua launched attacks almost at the same time. Wen Ya stared coldly at the 150 candidates around her and quickly activated her frozen fruit ability. With a gentle wave of her hand, hundreds of sharp ice blades shot out in all directions like raindrops. The ice blade flashed with a biting cold light, and its speed was so fast that it was almost difficult for people to react. The bodies of those who were hit by the ice blade instantly froze, their movements became sluggish, and painful screams resounded in the air, as the ice blade easily penetrated their defenses. At this time, Huohua was not to be outdone and opened his mouth. I saw a huge fire dragon spraying out from its mouth, and the flames swept in like a tide, and the hot air flow instantly distorted the surrounding air. Those candidates who barely managed to avoid the ice blade were swallowed directly by the fire dragon before even regaining consciousness, and were instantly wrapped in blazing flames. The extremely high-temperature flames suddenly erupted. Everywhere he went, everything was burned to ashes. The fire dragon roared past and swallowed up more than 100 candidates in an instant. After this round of attack, Dong Biao's subordinates who had not yet been eliminated were all stained. No one is uninjured. In just a few minutes, the original team of 150 people was reduced to less than 50 people. The faces of this group of people were full of panic and regret. Some people even started crying crazily, bowing their heads and begging Ning Yi for mercy, saying at the top of their lungs that they would never dare to do such a thing again. I begged Ning Yi and Wen Ya to let them go, and not take away their opportunity to take the college entrance examination. Some people are even willing to spend another 100,000 dragon coins to beg Wen Ya to let him go. However, Wen Ya and Huohua have no sympathy for these people. Wen Ya's eyes were cold, and she waved her hand again without mercy, and the surrounding ice blades burst out again. It is even several times sharper than the previous ice blade. Huohua roared again, and the second fire dragon soared into the sky. This time the flames were even hotter, almost surrounding the entire venue. Not one of the more than 50 candidates who were lucky enough to be eliminated was spared. In the end, they were all turned into a burst of white light, and they completely withdrew from the college entrance examination. Seeing this scene, Dong Biao felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. He originally thought that he could scare Wen Ya and Ning Yi with his numbers and strong backing. However, the scene in front of him made him completely realize that his previous threat was not even a joke in front of these truly strong men. There is indeed a gap between ordinary people with natural abilities and those with SSS-level abilities. But what shocked Dong Biao even more was that he actually ignored a terrifying existence that was not much different from Wen Ya in strength. Advertisement: the dog next to Ning Yi turned out to be a person with fire talent. And the strength is terrifying. Its control over flames made him, a person with S-level fire talent, feel a little scared. That is absolute suppression on top of talent. Could it be that this dog's innate ability reaches SS level, or even higher than that? Guessing this, Dong Biao gritted his teeth and his heart was filled with complicated emotions. He began to regret that he had offended these three guys who shouldn't have been offended. At the same time, he began to think crazily in his mind about how to pass this horrific news to his young master. If there are really two SSS-level talents among the three of Ning Yi, then even if his young master is surrounded by many experts to protect him, he cannot be their opponent. Just a Wen Ya and a pure martial arts guy are enough to give my young master a big headache. Now there is another dog with terrifying strength. As the last candidate's white light disappeared, Ning Yi calmly glanced at the empty field, without any emotion in his eyes. He turned around and walked towards Dong Biao, with a trace of disdain in his eyes. Without any warning, Ning Yi raised his fist without hesitation and hit Dong Biao's leg hard. Just two crisp, clicked sounds of bone cracking were heard. Dong Biao screamed in pain and fell to his knees heavily, his forehead instantly soaked with sweat. He tried to reach out to support his body, but the severe pain in his legs made him unable to stand at all. You? Dong Biao's eyes were full of anger, and his mouth opened slightly, as if he wanted to resist. But his voice was so weak in Ning Yi's cold eyes. Want to escape? Do you think you can still run away? Ning Yi's tone was cold, without any mercy at all. He leaned over and grabbed Dong Biao's neck, lifting him up easily, like a weak chicken. Dong Biao was dragged and slid on the ground, his face pale. But in order not to embarrass the Dong family, he gritted his teeth and did not scream. Quite a bit of backbone. Let's go. Take us to the second floor to find your Dong family's forces. Advertisement. I want to see how much power the eldest young master of the Dong family in the capital can mobilize in this abyss of death. After saying that, Ning Yi carried Dong Biao and walked ahead. Wen Ya and Hua followed Ning Yi and walked into the passage leading to the second floor. The candidates around them watched them leave, their hearts filled with complicated emotions. Especially those candidates who paid 500 Longhua coins to Dong Biao and others to buy passage spots. They watched Ning Yi leave with Dong Biao. I looked again and saw that the channel I bought with money became a free channel again. They wanted to get the 500 yuan back from Ning Yi, but they didn't dare. He could only watch helplessly as Ning Yi and Dong Biao disappeared before his eyes. When you were about to go down to the second floor, Ning Yi deliberately used his power of knowledge and eavesdropped on the conversations of the candidates. He found that the candidates who had paid the money were angrily scolding Dong Biao and others for being useless. So many people were beaten to a pulp by 3 people. Let others enter the second level and compete with yourself for college entrance examination scores. Some people even started scolding Ning Yi behind his back, saying that he, a guy who relied on women to make ends meet, dared to pretend like this. A good watershed was actually opened by him, and it was given to those poor people who couldn't even afford 500 yuan. After listening for a long time, Ning Yi became a little annoyed. He had already noted down the locations of the guys who spoke ill of him behind his back. The moment he was about to reach the end of the passage and enter the second floor, as soon as he raised his hand, hundreds of thin ice needles flew around him. Wait for the moment his arm falls. These hundreds of ice needles flew out of his hand instantly. Under the guidance of Jian Wensei Haki, he flew straight towards those guys who spoke ill of him behind his back. Hundreds of white lights instantly lit up among the candidates gathered around the entrance. Hundreds of people have finished this college entrance examination again. Seeing this scene, I realized that those who were eliminated were the guys who said bad things about Ning Yi and the others. Everyone shut their mouths instantly, not daring to say another word. Oh, he's just a clown. Ning Yi smiled and stepped directly into the second layer of the undead abyss filled with thick red fog.
Thanks for watching. You can find the next videos in the playlist linked in the info card, directly on my channel, or right here on the screen. And as always, if you have any feedback, feel free to share it in the comments too.